Have you ever found yourself in the middle of an ordinary day when something small, almost insignificant, happens? Perhaps it is a certain tone in someone's voice, a fleeting image on a screen, or a scent carried on the wind that you can't quite place. And suddenly, without warning, a wave of emotion washes over you, so powerful it feels alien. A surge of anger that is far too intense for the situation, a profound sadness that seems to come from nowhere, or a sharp, sudden anxiety that makes your heart race. In that moment, you may feel like a stranger in your own skin, a helpless child looking out from the eyes of a capable adult, wondering what just happened. This experience, this bewildering disconnect, is not a sign of weakness, nor is it a flaw in your character. It is simply an echo, a faint sound from a room within you that was locked and forgotten long ago. It is the voice of the inner child. Our modern life demands so much of us. It asks that we be strong, successful, resilient, and always in control. To meet these demands, many of us have learned to lock that door, to silence the cries, and ignore the needs of that younger self. We believe that by moving forward, by building a life of adult responsibilities, we have left the past behind. But the wounds of childhood do not simply disappear with time. They linger in the shadows, quietly shaping our emotions, our behaviors, and our relationships. They create the invisible patterns that keep us feeling stuck, the recurring self-sabotage, the persistent feeling that something is missing, that we are not quite whole. They are the source of that deep, unsettling feeling of being lost. But there is a path to finding your way back. It is not a path of harsh analysis or intellectual dissection. It is a gentle path of returning, of listening, and of embracing. The wisdom of Buddhism, with its profound emphasis on mindfulness, compassion, and the true nature of suffering, offers us practical and deeply insightful tools to approach that locked door, not with force, but with a gentle, steady hand. It provides a way to safely enter that forgotten room, to sit with the child who waits there, and to begin the sacred work of healing. This is not about erasing the past, for the past has made you who you are. It is about transforming your relationship to it, and in doing so, finally finding a peace that is not dependent on the outside world, but one that blossoms from within. So we begin, not with a grand effort, but with a gentle turning inward. We start by acknowledging the presence of this inner child. This term is not meant to be taken literally. You do not have a small person living inside of you. Rather, think of the inner child as a living, breathing part of your psyche. It is a beautiful and useful concept to describe the part of you that carries all of your earliest experiences. It is the seat of your most profound joy, your sense of wonder, your creativity, and your spontaneity. It is also the place where your first pains, your deepest fears, and your most vulnerable moments are stored. It is a living archive of your emotional history, the blueprint upon which much of your adult emotional world has been built. For some, this inner child is vibrant and feels safe, integrated into a healthy adult life. But for many of us, navigating the complexities and pressures of the world, this inner child is in pain. It feels neglected, unseen, or unheard. And when the inner child is wounded, it does not remain silent. It sends signals. It calls for help in the only ways it knows how, through behaviors and emotions that can feel confusing and overwhelming to our adult mind. One of the most common signs is the experience of a disproportionate emotional reaction. You are in a meeting at work, and a colleague offers a mild, constructive criticism of your project. Logically, Your adult mind knows this is a normal part of collaboration, but instead of feeling a calm acceptance, you feel a surge of shame, so intense, it feels like a physical blow. You feel small, stupid, and utterly worthless. This is the echo of a child who was told they were never good enough, whose every effort was met with criticism. Or, perhaps, your partner is late coming home, caught in traffic. Your adult mind knows they are safe, but a part of you is thrown into a state of sheer panic, an absolute certainty that you have been abandoned, that you are being left forever. This is the terror of a child who once felt the profound fear of being left alone. These are not adult reactions. They are the unfiltered, amplified emotions of your past, bleeding through into your present. The inner child does not understand time. It only understands the feeling. And when a present moment feels even slightly similar to a past wound, it reacts as if the original wound is happening all over again. Another clear sign is a pervasive, deep-seated fear of abandonment. This can manifest in many ways. It might look like clinging in relationships, a constant need for reassurance, texting, and calling excessively, needing to know that you are always on the other person's mind. This behavior comes from a child who learned that love and attention were conditional and could be withdrawn at any moment. The slightest distance from a loved one feels like a catastrophic threat. Paradoxically, this fear can also look like its opposite, an avoidance of intimacy altogether. You might keep people at arm's length, ending relationships before they get too serious, or choosing partners who are emotionally unavailable. Your inner child believes that if you never truly let anyone get close, you can never be hurt by them leaving. It is a preemptive strategy to avoid re-experiencing that original, unbearable pain of feeling left behind, unseen, or unimportant. This fear can become the silent, powerful director of your entire relational life, ensuring that you are never truly vulnerable, and therefore, never truly connected. This often goes hand in hand with a desperate need for external validation, a pattern many call people-pleasing. A person driven by this need feels like a chameleon, constantly changing their colors to match their surroundings. Their own opinions, desires, and needs are pushed down, buried beneath a compulsive desire to be liked, to be approved of, to cause no trouble. Saying no feels impossible, like an act of aggression that will surely lead to rejection. Their sense of self-worth is not an internal state. It is something that must be earned constantly from the outside world. This is the strategy of a child who learned that their safety and value depended on being a good girl or a good boy. They learned that their authentic feelings, their anger, their sadness, their exuberant joy were inconvenient or unacceptable to the adults around them. So they suppressed their true self and put on a mask of agreeableness. As an adult, this mask feels fused to their skin, and the thought of taking it off, of showing who they really are, is terrifying. The inner child is convinced that if people saw the real you, they would surely turn away. And who is it that enforces these rules, these fears, this need to be perfect? It is the relentless voice of the harsh inner critic. For many, this is the most painful and persistent manifestation of a wounded inner child. It is a voice in your head that is constantly judging, belittling, and condemning you. It rarely has anything kind to say. It is the voice that whispers, "You're a failure," when you make a small mistake. It is the voice that screams, "You're unlovable," when a relationship ends. It is the voice that says, "Don't even try. You'll only embarrass yourself." If you listen closely, you may even recognize that the tone, and perhaps the very words, of this inner critic belong to a parent, a teacher, or another authority figure from your past. You have internalized their judgment, and now their voice has become your own. This inner critic is the child's attempt to control the uncontrollable. The child believed that if they could just criticize themselves first, if they could just become perfect, then maybe they could finally avoid criticism and punishment from the outside world and earn the love they so desperately craved. It is a deeply flawed survival strategy that has carried over into adulthood, ensuring that you are a prisoner in your own mind. Think of the old story of a great king who lived in a vast and beautiful palace. He had everything a person could want: wealth, power, and respect. Yet, for all his success, he was never truly at peace. A quiet, unshakable feeling of sorrow followed him through the marbled halls. He could hear, in the moments of silence between courtly duties, a faint, almost imperceptible sound of crying. It troubled him deeply. He commanded his guards to search the entire palace, from the highest tower to the deepest dungeon, but they could find nothing. The sound persisted, a ghost of a melody of grief. Finally, the king, frustrated and weary, set out on his own. He walked past the grand banquet halls and the luxurious sleeping quarters, following the sound with his own ears. It led him down a corridor he had not walked in decades, to a small, simple wooden door, covered in dust and cobwebs. He had forgotten it was even there. With a creaking protest, he opened the door. The room inside was small and bare, just as he remembered it. And there, sitting in the corner, was a small boy, weeping silently. The king looked at the boy's tear-streaked face and recognized him instantly. It was himself. As a child, the king did not scold the boy, nor did he try to rationalize his tears away. He simply walked over, sat down on the floor, and wrapped his strong, adult arms around the small, trembling body. And for the first time in years, the king and the palace felt a profound and lasting silence, a true peace. Your adult life is that palace, and the unease you feel is that faint, distant crying. The journey to heal is the journey of that king, the willingness to turn away from the distractions of the world and walk down the forgotten corridors of your own heart. The first and most courageous step is simply to find and open that door, to acknowledge that the crying child is there. This act of recognition, of naming, is profoundly powerful. When you can say to yourself, this intense fear is not me, it is my inner child feeling scared, you create a space. You create a separation between the calm, observing adult self and the overwhelming emotion. In that space, there is freedom. In that space, there is choice. The emotion no longer possesses you entirely. It becomes something you are experiencing, not something you are. Shining this gentle light of awareness into the forgotten room is not about fixing or changing anything at once. It is simply about seeing, with compassion, what is truly there. It is about ending the abandonment. It is about letting that small child know that they are no longer alone. And so, let us try a small practice together, right here, in this moment. If it feels comfortable and safe for you to do so, I invite you to gently close your eyes. You don't need to be in a special posture. Just be as you are. Take one soft, easy breath in and let it go. Now, without any striving or searching, I invite you to bring a gentle question into your mind, into your heart, as if you are speaking to the most precious, vulnerable part of yourself. Ask quietly, "My dear inner child, how are you feeling right now?" Don't look for an answer in words. Don't analyze or judge what comes. Simply listen. Listen with your whole body. Perhaps a sensation will arise, a tightness in the chest, a warmth in the stomach. Perhaps a single word will emerge, like sad, or scared, or tired. Perhaps a faint image will flicker behind your eyes, or perhaps there will only be silence. Whatever you experience, or do not experience, is perfectly fine. The purpose of this moment is not to get an answer. The purpose is the asking, the act of turning towards yourself with tenderness and curiosity is the beginning of all healing. It is the king, finally sitting down on the floor. You have now taken the first, most crucial step. You have acknowledged that there is a part of you that holds the memories and feelings of your youth, and that this part sometimes calls out for attention. You have opened the door to the forgotten room. This act alone is an act of immense compassion. Now that we can hear the echo of the cry, we must seek to understand it more deeply. We must learn why the child is crying. This leads us to the very foundation of Buddhist wisdom, a timeless diagnosis of suffering that offers a clear and practical path toward its end. To understand the nature of the child's cry, to truly comprehend the roots of this pain, we can turn to the very first teaching the Buddha offered after his own awakening. This teaching is known as the Four Noble Truths. Now, this name can sound grand, religious, or even intimidating, but if we set aside those preconceptions, we will find that these truths are not articles of faith to be blindly believed. Rather, they are a framework for seeing reality clearly, a diagnosis offered by a master physician of the mind. They are a deeply practical and compassionate guide to understanding our own suffering and, most importantly, to liberating ourselves from it. Think of the Buddha not as a god, but as a doctor who has discovered both the cause of a universal ailment and its definitive cure. He offers this diagnosis to us, not to label us as sick, but to empower us with the knowledge to heal ourselves. The first noble truth is the truth of suffering, or dukkha. The ancient Pali word dukkha is often translated as suffering, but its meaning is far more subtle and encompasses a wider range of human experience. It includes not just the obvious pain of grief, sickness, and old age, but also the more subtle, pervasive feelings of unsatisfactoriness, of stress, to the background hum of anxiety that so often characterizes our lives. It is the feeling that something is just not quite right, the friction of a life that never quite aligns with our desires. When we apply this truth to the healing of our inner child, it becomes a radical act of validation. The first truth is a compassionate acknowledgement. It is looking directly at the pain of your younger self and saying, with the full authority of your adult consciousness, yes, the pain you feel is real. The fear you experienced was real. The loneliness was real. The confusion was real. For many of us, this is the first time our pain has ever been fully acknowledged without being minimized, rationalized, or dismissed. All our lives, we may have been told, "It wasn't that bad, you're too sensitive, or you should be over it by now." And so we learn to dismiss our own feelings. The first noble truth invites us to stop this internal war. It asks us to put down the weapons of denial and avoidance and simply be present with the reality of our own experience. It does not ask us to wallow in misery, but to have the courage to gently touch our own wounds. It is the physician's initial, gentle palpation, confirming, yes, there is pain here. Let us not pretend otherwise. The second noble truth is the truth of the origin of suffering, or samudaya. Once the physician has confirmed the presence of pain, the next logical step is to discover its cause. This is perhaps the most misunderstood, and yet the most empowering, of the four truths. The Buddha taught that the immediate cause of our present suffering is not the original event in the past. It is not our parents, our childhood circumstances, or the people who hurt us. While those events were undoubtedly painful and created the initial wound, the cause of our suffering now is our own clinging, our own craving, our own attachment. The Pali word is tanha, which can be translated as thirst. We are thirsty, we are grasping. What do we grasp onto? We grasp onto the painful memories, replaying them in our minds like a movie, keeping the wound fresh. We grasp onto the identity of being a wounded person, because even though it is painful, it is familiar. We grasp onto a deep-seated craving for the past to have been different, a futile desire that only creates more tension and sorrow in the present. And most powerfully, we grasp onto the limiting beliefs that were formed in our childhood to make sense of the original pain. Beliefs like, I am not good enough, I am unlovable, I must be perfect to be safe, or the world is a dangerous place. These were once survival strategies for a helpless child, but we have carried them into adulthood, where they have become a prison. We unconsciously seek out experiences that confirm these beliefs, perpetuating the cycle of our own suffering. Imagine you are walking through a forest and a sharp thorn lodges itself deep in the sole of your foot. The initial event of stepping on the thorn is the past trauma. The first noble truth is acknowledging the searing pain. My foot hurts terribly. The second noble truth is looking closely to see the cause of the pain right now. The cause is not the entire forest path you walked. The cause is the specific thorn still embedded in your flesh. The continued suffering comes from your continued attachment to the thorn, from pressing on it with every step, from being so identified with the pain that you forget you can do something about it. Seeing this is liberating. It is not about blaming yourself for stepping on the thorn. It is about realizing that the power to alleviate the pain is now in your hands. If the cause of the suffering was entirely in the unchangeable past, we would be helpless. But because the cause is our present clinging, our present attachment to the thorn, we have agency. We can learn to stop pressing on it. We can learn to remove it. This leads us to the third noble truth, the truth of the cessation of suffering, or nirodha. This is the physician's hopeful prognosis. After identifying the ailment and its cause, the doctor says with confidence, there is a cure. This condition is not permanent. The third noble truth is the profound and beautiful promise that liberation from suffering is possible. Cessation does not mean a dull, lifeless emptiness. It means the end of the thirst, the end of the clinging. It is the peace that arises when the fever of craving has subsided. In the context of our inner child, it is the promise that healing is real. It does not mean you will forget your past or that the scars will vanish completely. It means they will no longer have the power to control you. The memories will lose their emotional charge. You will be able to look back at your past, not with the searing pain of an open wound, but with the gentle compassion and wisdom of a healed survivor. The inner child is no longer a source of pain, but is integrated into your whole being, bringing forth its gifts of creativity, joy, and spontaneity. The third truth is the light at the end of the tunnel, the assurance that a state of profound well-being, freedom, and inner peace is not a fantasy, but your true nature, waiting to be uncovered. It is the deep, relieving knowledge that the thorn can, indeed, be removed, and that the foot can heal completely. Finally, we arrive at the fourth noble truth, the truth of the path to the cessation of suffering, or magga. This is the physician's prescription. It is the practical, step-by-step treatment plan that leads from the diagnosis of suffering to the prognosis of complete healing. This path is known as the Noble Eightfold Path. Again, we must be careful not to see this as a rigid set of religious commandments. It is a holistic guide for living, a set of interconnected practices that work together to untangle the knots of our suffering. It is a path of cultivating wisdom through right understanding and right thought. It is a path of living an ethical life through right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And it is a path of training the mind through right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Each of these 8 aspects supports and deepens the others, creating a comprehensive framework for personal transformation. It is the practical how-to of healing. It is the set of sterile tweezers, the antiseptic, the bandage, and the detailed instructions the physician gives you for how to skillfully, gently, and effectively remove the thorn from your foot and care for the wound until it is fully healed. The path begins with right understanding, which is the very understanding of these 4 noble truths we are exploring now. It is the clarity of seeing your situation for what it is. There is pain. It has a cause that is present now. That cause can be removed, and there is a clear path to do so. This framework of the 4 noble truths is a profound gift. It takes us out of the foggy, confusing landscape of victimhood and places us on the solid, clear ground of empowerment. It respects our pain by acknowledging it fully. It honors our intelligence by showing us the clear cause and effect nature of our inner world. And it fills us with hope by assuring us that freedom is possible and by giving us the map to get there. We are no longer defined by what happened to us. We are defined by what we choose to do now. We are no longer just the person with the thorn in their foot. We are the person who has the wisdom to see the thorn, the courage to face it, and the tools to remove it. The entire journey of healing is contained within this elegant and compassionate structure. To walk this path, however, we need to develop a fundamental skill, a foundational capacity upon which all other progress rests. We need to learn how to be present, how to observe our own minds and bodies without judgment. We need a stable anchor in the present moment, a safe harbor to return to when the storms of the past threaten to overwhelm us. That anchor, that safe harbor, is our very own breath. Having found our map in the 4 noble truths, we now need a compass, an anchor, something to keep our small boat steady as we prepare to navigate the vast and sometimes turbulent waters of our own inner world. The journey of healing asks us to look at things we may have spent a lifetime avoiding. It requires courage, but courage is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of a safe place to stand while we feel that fear. We need a refuge, and the most profound, the most reliable, and the most intimate refuge you will ever find is your own breath. This may sound too simple, too mundane to be the key to such a profound undertaking. How can the simple act of breathing in and breathing out possibly help us with the deep and complex wounds of our childhood? The power of the breath lies not in its complexity, but in its absolute, unwavering simplicity. Think about the nature of your mind. Where is it most of the time? If you are like most people, your mind is rarely ever in the present moment. It is in the past, replaying old conversations, reliving painful memories, analyzing what went wrong, generating feelings of regret, guilt, and sadness. Or it is in the future, rehearsing upcoming challenges, worrying about what might happen, generating anxiety and fear. The past and the future are the realms of thought, and for the wounded inner child, they are often treacherous territories. The breath, however, has a unique quality. It is always and only in the present. You cannot breathe in the past. You cannot breathe in the future. You can only breathe right here, right now. Therefore, bringing your attention to the simple, physical sensation of your breathing is a direct and immediate way to pull your awareness out of the painful stories of the past and the anxious projections of the future, and to ground it in the reality of the present moment. The present moment is the only place where true safety and healing can ever be found. The breath is your portal to this place. It is the anchor that holds you steady in the only moment that truly exists, the now. Furthermore, the breath serves as a bridge between your mind and your body. When we experience trauma, especially as children, a common coping mechanism is to dissociate, to subtly disconnect from our bodies where the frightening sensations are held. We learn to live in our heads. This creates a painful split between mind and body, leaving us feeling ungrounded and disconnected from our own physical self. Focusing on the breath is a gentle and powerful way to heal this split. The breath is a physical, somatic event. To pay attention to it, you must bring your awareness back into your body. You feel the cool air at the tip of the nostrils. You feel the gentle expansion of the chest. You feel the soft rise of the abdomen. In doing so, you are gently, safely re-inhabiting your own body. You are sending a message to your nervous system and to your inner child that it is safe to be here, in this body, in this moment. You are not asking yourself to feel anything spectacular, just the simple, honest, physical reality of being alive. This is a profoundly grounding and regulating practice. So let us begin this practice together. There is no need for any special equipment. Just find a comfortable way to sit. You can be on a cushion on the floor, or you can be on a chair with your feet resting flat on the ground. The invitation is to find a posture that embodies a sense of dignity and ease. Allow your back to be straight, but not stiff, like a mountain. Let your hands rest gently on your lap or on your knees. You can gently close your eyes, or if that feels uncomfortable, you can leave them slightly open, with your gaze resting softly on the floor a few feet in front of you. There is nothing to achieve, nothing to force. We are simply setting the stage for awareness. Now, bring your attention to the fact that you are breathing. There is no need to change your breath in any way. You don't need to take deep breaths or special breaths. Simply allow the body to breathe all by itself, as it has been doing your entire life. Your only task is to feel it. You might choose to rest your awareness at the tip of your nostrils. Can you feel the subtle sensation of the air as it enters, perhaps a little cooler? And can you feel the sensation of the air as it leaves, perhaps a little warmer? Just rest your attention there, feeling the quiet rhythm of the in-breath and the out-breath. Or you may find it easier to rest your attention on your abdomen. You can even place a hand gently on your belly if you like. Feel the gentle rising of the abdominal wall as the breath flows in, creating space, and feel the gentle falling as the breath flows out, a soft release. There is nothing else to do. Breathing in, feel the belly rise. Breathing out, feel the belly fall, rise and fall. A gentle, oceanic rhythm. Just stay with this simple sensation. It will not take long before you notice that your mind has wandered away. You might find yourself planning your dinner, replaying a conversation from yesterday, or worrying about tomorrow. You might hear a sound outside and follow it with a long train of thought. This is not a mistake. This is not a sign that you are a bad meditator. This is simply what minds do. The nature of the mind is to think, just as the nature of the ear is to hear. The practice is not about forcing your mind to be empty. The real practice, the moment of true magic, happens right when you realize you have been lost in thought. That moment of noticing, my mind has wandered, is a moment of mindfulness. It is a small victory of awareness. And in that moment, The invitation is to be incredibly kind to yourself. There is no need for judgment or frustration. Do not scold your mind. Simply acknowledge where it has been, perhaps with a gentle mental note of thinking or worrying, and then, as gently and tenderly as you would guide a lost puppy back to its warm bed, you guide your attention back to the breath, back to the feeling of the belly rising and falling. You will have to do this over and over again, perhaps 5 times, perhaps 100 times in a single sitting. This is the practice. This gentle, non-judgmental returning is the very essence of training the mind. Each time you guide your awareness back to the breath with kindness, you are strengthening the muscle of compassion. You are transforming your relationship with your own mind from one of conflict to one of gentle friendship. Think of a turtle in the forest. When it senses danger, when a predator approaches, the turtle does not engage in a futile fight. It does not try to outrun the threat. It does what is wise. It pulls its vulnerable head, its soft legs, into the safety of its hard, protective shell. There, it can wait out the storm. It can remain safe until the danger has passed. For you, in this journey of healing, your breath is your shell. It is your portable refuge. When the predators of your mind appear, a painful memory, a surge of anxiety, the harsh voice of the inner critic, you do not have to fight them. You do not have to run from them. You can learn to do what the turtle does. You can withdraw your attention from the frightening story in your head and place it firmly on the physical sensation of your breath. Just for a moment, take one conscious breath. Breathing in, feel your body. Breathing out, feel the release. This is a skill you can use anytime, anywhere. When you feel overwhelmed in a meeting, when you feel a wave of sadness while washing the dishes, when you are lying in bed at night and the ghosts of the past come to visit, you can always return to your shell. Breathing in, I am here in my body. Breathing out, I am safe in this moment. This one conscious breath is an act of profound self-care. It is a refuge that no one and nothing can ever take away from you. So continue to practice this. Treat it not as a chore, but as an act of profound kindness to yourself. Every moment you spend with your breath, you are communicating to your inner child that you are here now. You are present. You are not going to abandon it. You are creating a foundation of stability and safety within your own being. This is the ground from which all true healing grows. It is the steady anchor that gives us the courage to look at the waves, to feel the wind, without being capsized. And now, with this anchor firmly in place, with the knowledge that we have a safe harbor to return to at any moment, we can afford to be brave. We can begin to lift our gaze and look at the nature of the waves themselves. We can learn to see our thoughts and emotions not as a solid, terrifying tsunami, but as something far more transient, far more insubstantial, like clouds passing through the vast and unchanging sky of our awareness. Having seen that all our inner experiences, the clouds of emotion and the storms of thought, are impermanent, we are naturally led to ask the most fundamental question of all. Who is it that is experiencing all of this? We say, I feel sad, or I remember that pain. But if the sadness is a changing cloud, and the pain is a fleeting sensation, then what is this I? What is this self that feels so solid, so continuous, so real? This inquiry takes us into the very heart of Buddhist wisdom, to a teaching that can be both challenging and profoundly liberating. It is the teaching of no self, or Anattā. Let us be very clear from the beginning. The teaching of no self does not mean that you do not exist. It is not an erasure of your being. You are here. reading these words, breathing, feeling, thinking, the teaching is far more subtle. It suggests that you do not exist as a separate, solid, unchanging entity, a little king or queen sitting on a throne inside your head, directing the show. It suggests that what we call the self is not a noun, but a verb. It is not a thing, but a process. It is a dynamic, flowing, ever-changing pattern of events. This is not a philosophical attack on your identity, but a compassionate invitation to freedom. Because if your self is a fixed entity, and that self has been wounded, then you are permanently wounded. But if the self is a fluid process, then it can be changed, it can be healed, it can be free. There is a famous ancient story that beautifully illustrates this point. A Greek king named Melinda, a man of great intellect, came to visit a Buddhist sage named Nagasena. The king, wanting to test the sage's wisdom, asked him his name. The sage replied, "I am known as Nagasena, but this is just a designation, a name in common use. For in ultimate reality, no permanent person is found here." The king was baffled and amused. He challenged the sage, saying, "If there is no person, then who is it that wears these robes? Who eats, sleeps, and speaks? It must be Nagasena." He then pointed to the magnificent chariot that had brought him. "Venerable sir," the king asked, "is the chariot the pole? Is it the axle? Is it the wheels, the frame, the reins, or the whip?" To each question, Nagasena calmly answered, "No, Your Majesty." The king, triumphant, declared, "Then there is no chariot." Nagasena smiled gently and replied, "Your Majesty, chariot is just a convenient name, a designation given to the assembly of all these parts. In the same way, Nagasena is just a convenient designation for the collection of my body, my feelings, and my thoughts. But if you look for a separate, permanent Nagasena, apart from these components, you will not find one." The Buddha taught that what we call ourself is exactly like King Melinda's chariot. It is a useful name for an assembly of changing parts. This assembly is described in Buddhism as the 5 aggregates, or the 5 skandhas. These are the 5 heaps, the 5 bundles of experience that we mistake for a solid self. By looking into them one by one, we can begin to deconstruct the illusion of a fixed, wounded I. The first aggregate is form, or rupa. This is our physical body and the entire material world. We often identify strongly with our bodies. We say, "This is me," but is it? Your body is in a constant state of flux. Cells are dying and being reborn in every moment. The body you have today is not the same body you had 7 years ago, or even 7 minutes ago. It gets hungry, it gets tired, it gets sick, it ages. It is a process, not a static thing. If you cling to your body as yourself, you are setting yourself up for inevitable suffering as it changes and decays. The body is a precious vehicle, but it is not the permanent you. It is the first part of the chariot. The second aggregate is feeling, or Vedana. This refers to the raw sensations that arise whenever our senses make contact with the world. These sensations are categorized into 3 simple types: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. A cool breeze on a hot day is a pleasant feeling. The ache of a headache is an unpleasant feeling. The sensation of your clothes against your skin might be a neutral feeling. We are ruled by these feelings, constantly chasing the pleasant and running from the unpleasant. We say, "I am happy," or "I am in pain." But are you your feelings? A feeling arises, stays for a while, and then vanishes, replaced by another. They are as fleeting as the weather. To identify with them is to be tossed around on a stormy sea. Feelings are a vital part of experience, but they are not the permanent you. They are another part of the chariot. The third aggregate is perception, or sanya. This is the faculty of the mind that recognizes, labels, and categorizes our experience. It is the part of the mind that sees a shape and says tree, hears a sound and says bird, or feels a sensation and says sadness. Perception is built upon memory and conditioning. It gives meaning to the raw data of our senses. But is this me? Our perceptions are often flawed, colored by our past experiences and biases. Two people can witness the same event and have completely different perceptions of it. Perception is a useful mental tool, but it is also an impersonal, changing process. It is not the permanent you. The fourth aggregate is the most complex. It is called mental formations, or sankhara. This is a vast category that includes all of our volitional activities. It is our thoughts, our opinions, our beliefs, our prejudices, our moods, our habits, our intentions, and our desires. This is the part of the mind that we most strongly identify with as me. It is the storyteller, the constant commentator that narrates our life. It is the part that generates the story of the wounded self. It is the voice that says, I am a person who was abandoned. I am a failure. I am not worthy of love. But are you these thoughts and stories? A thought arises, unbidden, and then disappears. A belief can be held for years, and then change with new information. These mental formations are powerful, but they are conditioned and impermanent. They are like a river of mental activity flowing through awareness. They are not the permanent you. They are the intricate carvings and decorations on the chariot, but they are not the chariot itself. The fifth and final aggregate is consciousness, or vijnana. This is the faculty of knowing, the basic awareness that makes all other experience possible. There is consciousness of seeing, consciousness of hearing, consciousness of smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. It is the light that illuminates the other four aggregates. It can be tempting to identify this as our true self, our soul. But the Buddha taught that consciousness too is a dependent process. It does not exist on its own. It arises only when there is an object to be known. Seeing consciousness arises because of an eye and a form. Hearing consciousness arises because of an ear and a sound. It is also flickering in and out of existence, moment by moment. It is the fundamental knowing quality of experience, but it is not a permanent, separate self. Let us now apply this deconstruction directly to a painful memory from childhood. When the memory arises, instead of seeing it as a monolithic event where I was hurt, let's break it down using the 5 aggregates. There was a body, form, that was small and vulnerable. There was a raw, unpleasant feeling, vedana, of fear, pain, or shame. There was a perception, sanya, that labeled what was happening as bad or wrong. Then, a flurry of mental formations, sankhara, arose. Thoughts like, this is my fault, nobody loves me, I am alone. And finally, there was consciousness, vijnana, that was aware of the body, the feeling, the perception, and the thoughts. Now look closely at this bundle of changing processes. Where in this collection of parts can you find a solid, separate I that was being hurt? The I is the story that was created after the fact, a story woven by the mental formations to make sense of the experience. But it is not a separate entity that exists apart from these 5 processes. When you see this, the entire structure of the trauma begins to soften. Its power comes from the belief in a solid victim, a solid me. When you see that there is only a changing, impersonal process, the story loses its central character. But what about the inner child? Have we not been focused on healing this very being? This is where we must appreciate the compassionate skill of these teachings. The inner child is a beautiful, skillful concept. It is a story, a metaphor that allows the compassionate, adult parts of our mind, our present-day aggregates, to offer love, care, and attention to a collection of painful past experiences, past aggregates. It is an incredibly useful tool for healing. The danger only arises when we cling to it as a fixed, permanent identity. When we go through life saying, "I am a person with a broken childhood," we have taken a useful concept and turned it into a prison cell. We use the concept of the inner child to bring love to the wound. But ultimately, for true freedom, we must be willing to let go of even this identity, to not be defined by it forever. We use the chariot to get to our destination, but once we arrive, we do not need to carry it on our back. The freedom of this teaching is immense. When you are no longer a fixed, solid I, you are no longer a permanent victim. You are a flowing, unfolding process. When a critical thought arises, you don't have to take it so personally. It is just a mental formation, a cloud passing through the sky. When a painful feeling arises, you don't have to solidify it into my pain. It is just a feeling, a wave rising and falling in the ocean of experience. You are free to redefine yourself in every moment, unburdened by the heavy suitcase of a fixed, historical self. This is the ultimate peace, the ultimate security. It is not found in building a stronger, more defended self, but in seeing that there was never a solid self to defend in the first place. Having seen that the self is not a solid entity, but a flowing process of 5 aggregates, and that all these processes are marked by impermanence, we now arrive at a critical juncture in our journey. We are going to zoom in, to place our awareness on one specific aggregate that holds the key to our liberation from suffering. This is the aggregate of feeling, or Vedana. It is the missing link, the pivot point in the chain reaction that leads from a simple experience to a profound sense of pain. Learning to stand firmly at this pivot point, to observe it with clarity and wisdom, is one of the most powerful skills you can ever develop. It is the difference between being hopelessly swept away by the river of your conditioning and learning to stand on the bank, watching the water flow by. First, it is crucial to understand what Vedana is and what it is not. In our everyday language, the word feeling is often used interchangeably with emotion. We say, "I feel angry," or "I feel jealous." But in this specific context, Vedana refers to something much more fundamental and subtle. It is the raw, biological, pre-cognitive signal that arises in the body-mind with every single moment of contact. It is the simple, automatic tone of an experience, and it comes in only 3 flavors. There is Sukha Vedana, the tone of pleasantness. This arises when you taste something sweet, feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, hear a beautiful piece of music, or think a happy thought. It's a simple, biological yes. Then there is Dukkha Vedana, the tone of unpleasantness. This arises when you stub your toe, hear a jarringly loud noise, feel the sting of a critical word, or think a painful thought. It's a simple, biological no. Finally, there is Adukkhama Sukha Vedana, the neutral tone. This is the feeling tone of experiences that are neither pleasant nor unpleasant. The feeling of the chair beneath you right now, the sight of a plain wall, the sound of distant traffic. Most of our life is actually composed of these neutral feeling tones, but we rarely notice them, as our mind is conditioned to hunt for the pleasant, and be on guard for the unpleasant. This stream of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feeling tones is happening constantly, with every sight, every sound, every smell, taste, touch, and thought. It is the bedrock of our experience. The problem is not the Vedana itself. The problem is our automatic, unconscious reaction to it. When a pleasant feeling tone arises, our mind automatically reacts with craving, with tanha or thirst. We want more of it. We want to hold on to it, to repeat it. When an unpleasant feeling tone arises, our mind automatically reacts with aversion. We want to push it away, to destroy it, to escape from it. When a neutral feeling tone arises, we often react with boredom or ignorance, and our mind wanders off in search of something more interesting. This automatic chain reaction Vedana, leading to craving or aversion, is the engine of our suffering. It is what keeps us trapped on a relentless treadmill of chasing pleasure and fleeing from pain. The Buddha told a simple but profound parable to illustrate this. He said that an ordinary person, when struck by an arrow, feels pain. This is unavoidable. This is the first arrow. It represents the inevitable pains of life: sickness, loss, criticism, physical accidents. These things happen to everyone. But then, this ordinary person, overwhelmed by the pain of the first arrow, immediately shoots themselves with a second arrow. This second arrow is our mental reaction to the first. It is the voice that says, "Why me? This is terrible. I can't bear this. This is unfair." It is the flood of anger, self-pity, fear, and resentment that we layer on top of the original pain. The Buddha taught that wise people also get struck by the first arrow, but they are wise enough not to shoot themselves with the second. The pain of the first arrow is unavoidable, but the suffering of the second arrow is entirely optional. The practice of observing Vedana is the practice of learning not to fire that second arrow. It is learning to feel the unpleasantness of the first arrow without adding the mental anguish of the second. It is learning to feel the pleasantness of an experience without adding the anxiety and restlessness of craving. Let us now explore this directly, not as a theory, but as a living experience. This will be a workshop for your own mind. Find your posture of gentle dignity. Allow your eyes to close and take a few moments to arrive in your body, connecting with the quiet, steady rhythm of your breath. Let the breath be your anchor, your home base. For the next while, we are going to become explorers, scientists of our own inner landscape, with Vedana as the object of our investigation. Let us begin by simply scanning our awareness through the body, from the top of the head down to the tips of the toes. Go slowly. There is no rush. As your awareness moves through each part of your body, simply notice what sensations are present. Don't search for anything dramatic. Just notice what is already there. And as you notice a sensation, see if you can gently apply one of the three labels: pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Perhaps you notice a coolness on your forehead. Pleasant. You move your awareness down to your jaw and notice a slight clenching. Unpleasant. You bring your awareness to your hands, resting in your lap, and notice the simple feeling of contact. Neutral. Just continue this way, sweeping your awareness through your body. A warmth in your chest. Pleasant. An ache in your lower back. Unpleasant. The feeling of your feet on the floor. Neutral. Do not judge what you find. Do not try to change it. Your only task is to notice the sensation and to gently, silently note its feeling tone. This is the beginning of wisdom, simply seeing clearly what is present in your experience without adding any story to it. Now, let's deepen this with another image. Imagine your mind is a great, ancient city. Your six senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking, are the six gates into this city. And you, your mindful awareness, are the gatekeeper. Your job is not to fight with the people coming into the city, nor to get excited and run after them. Your job is simply to stand at the gate and be aware of who comes and goes. A beautiful sight arrives at the eye gate. The gatekeeper simply notes, a pleasant feeling has arrived. A harsh sound arrives at the ear gate. The gatekeeper notes, an unpleasant feeling has arrived. A neutral thought passes through the mind gate. The gatekeeper notes, a neutral feeling has arrived. Practice this for a few moments. Sit here as the calm, unwavering gatekeeper of your own mind. You are not the visitor. You are not the pleasantness or the unpleasantness. You are the knowing, the awareness that stands calmly at the center, simply observing the endless flow of traffic coming and going through the gates. This practice cultivates a powerful sense of equanimity and detachment. You are no longer swept away by every visitor that arrives at your gate. Now we will go deeper, to work directly with an unpleasant feeling tone. This is the heart of the practice of not firing the second arrow. I invite you to scan your body again and find a small, manageable, unpleasant sensation. Perhaps there is a slight itch on your arm, perhaps a stiffness in your neck, or a feeling of restlessness in your legs. Choose something that is clear, but not overwhelming. For the sake of this experiment, let's imagine you found an itch. The first arrow has struck. The unpleasant Vedana is here. Now, what is the automatic reaction? The automatic reaction is to immediately fire the second arrow, which in this case is the action of scratching. For the next minute, I invite you not to scratch. Instead, turn your full, scientific, curious awareness onto the sensation of the itch itself. Investigate it as if you have never experienced an itch before. Where are its exact borders? Is it on the surface, or does it feel deeper? What is its texture? Is it a sharp, piercing feeling, or is it a tingling, bubbly feeling? And most importantly, watch it over time. Does it remain exactly the same, or is it changing, pulsing, moving, intensifying, and then subsiding? Just watch this ever-changing, impersonal process of sensation. Now, as you are watching the raw sensation of the itch, see if you can also notice, as a separate event, the desire to scratch. Can you feel the impulse in the mind, the urge to move your hand? This is a profound moment. You are seeing, with your own awareness, the unpleasant feeling, the first arrow, and the aversion to it, the desire to get rid of it, the beginning of the second arrow. You are seeing them as two distinct events. The itch is one thing. The urge to scratch is another thing. And you, the awareness, are a third thing. Watching them both. By simply watching, you are breaking the chain of automatic reaction. You are choosing not to fire the arrow. And what happens to the itch when you don't feed it with the energy of your aversion? Often, you will find that it simply changes and fades away all by itself. You have discovered that you can bear the discomfort of the first arrow. It is not a catastrophe. It is just a changing, impermanent sensation. This is the training ground. We start with a simple itch so that we can build the strength to work with the deeper aches of our heart. And so now, very gently, I invite you to apply this same principle to the feelings of the inner child. Let a memory gently surface, one that carries a familiar emotional charge. Perhaps it's a memory of being criticized, or feeling left out, or being afraid. As soon as the memory appears, I want you to make a conscious shift. Let go of the story, let go of the pictures and the words, and bring your attention directly into your physical body. Where do you feel the emotional echo of this memory right now? Scan your body for the physical signature of this old pain. Is it a tightness in your chest, a hollow, aching feeling in your stomach, a lump in your throat, a heat in your face? Find the place where the feeling lives in your body. This physical sensation is the first arrow of the emotion. This tightness, this ache, this heat, this is the raw, unpleasant Vedana. Now, your task is to treat this tightness in your chest exactly as you treated the itch on your arm. Do not dive into the story about it. The story is the second arrow, the thoughts that say, "This is because I am worthless. This proves no one loves me. This pain is unbearable." That is the poison of the second arrow. For now, let all that go. Simply bring a gentle, courageous scientific curiosity to the raw physical sensation itself. What are the qualities of this tightness? Is it heavy or light? Is it still or is it vibrating? Does it have a center? Does it have edges? Just be with it, breathe with it, and watch it. Notice its impermanent nature. It is not a solid block of concrete in your chest. It is a shifting, changing field of energy. And as you watch it, without adding the second arrow of the story, you may discover something miraculous. You discover that you can bear it. It is just a sensation. You are the vast sky of awareness, and it is just a cloud. You are the gatekeeper, and it is just a visitor. By holding the raw Vedana of your old wounds in this spacious, non-reactive awareness, you are finally allowing them to heal. You are telling your inner child, "I am not afraid of this feeling anymore. I can be with you while you feel this. You are safe with me." This is a profound act of love and the very heart of healing. This is the path to true freedom. One sensation, one moment at a time. Having learned to stand on the firm ground of awareness, watching the ever-changing river of our feelings and thoughts flow by, we have cultivated wisdom. We have seen that we are not the river, we are the witness. This insight creates space. It brings relief. It is the clearing of the ground. But now, we must actively cultivate the garden. Wisdom sees the nature of the soil, but it is compassion that plants the seeds of healing and provides the warm sun and gentle rain they need to grow. The most fundamental seed we can plant is the seed of metta, a Pali word most often translated as loving kindness. Metta is a profound quality of the heart. It is not the sentimental, conditional, and often grasping love that we see in movies or hear about in songs. It is not a romantic love. It is a steady, unconditional, and boundless benevolence. It is a sincere and heartfelt wish for the well-being of a being, a deep and gentle friendliness that is offered without expecting anything in return. Think of the warmth of the sun. The sun does not choose who or what it shines upon. It shines equally on the beautiful flower and the jagged rock, on the saint and the sinner. It simply offers its warmth, freely and without judgment. Metta is like this inner sun. It is a warmth that we can learn to cultivate in our own hearts, a radiance that we can learn to shine upon ourselves and upon the world. It is the radical wish for beings to be happy, to be at peace, to be free from suffering. And where does this radical practice begin? It begins with ourselves. For many of us, this is the most difficult and counterintuitive step. We may have been taught that focusing on ourselves is selfish, that we should always put others first. We may feel so deeply flawed or unworthy that the idea of offering kindness to ourselves feels awkward, dishonest, or even impossible. We may be experts at seeing the good in others, but completely blind to the good within ourselves. If you feel this resistance, know that it is completely normal. It is the voice of your conditioning, the echo of past wounds. But the wisdom of this path is clear. We cannot give to others what we do not have for ourselves. You cannot pour water from an empty vessel. To try and offer a strained, depleted kindness to the world, while your own heart is a desert, is a recipe for burnout and resentment. The most generous, the most unselfish act you can perform is to first fill your own cup, so that your offering to the world can be genuine and overflowing. This is especially true when it comes to healing the inner child. For years, perhaps for a lifetime, that wounded part of you has been starved for love, for acceptance, for the simple message that it is good and worthy, exactly as it is. It may have looked for this nourishment everywhere, outside of itself, in the approval of parents, in the affection of partners, in the validation of achievements. The practice of metta is the moment the wise, compassionate adult that you are today finally turns inward and begins to provide that nourishment directly. It is the ultimate act of reparenting. It is saying to that small, waiting child, I will not abandon you. I will not wait for someone else to love you. I will love you myself. I will be the source of your safety and your peace. The Buddha offered a powerful image to describe the quality of metta. He said to cultivate it, just as a mother would protect her only child, even at the risk of her own life. Consider the power of this love. It is fierce, protective, unconditional, and utterly selfless. The mother does not love her child because the child has earned it or deserves it. She loves the child simply because it exists. She wishes for its safety, its health, and its happiness above all else. The practice of metta meditation is the training of the heart to generate this same powerful, protective, and unconditional quality of love, and to learn how to direct it, first and foremost, toward ourselves. So let us begin this practice of the heart. Find your comfortable posture, a posture of ease and gentle dignity. Let your hands rest softly in your lap. You might even wish to place one hand gently over the center of your chest, over your heart space, as a gesture of tenderness and connection. Close your eyes, and for a few moments, simply feel the rhythm of your breath and the feeling of warmth from your hand. We begin by offering this kindness to the self that is here right now, the adult you. Silently, in the quiet of your own mind, begin to repeat these phrases, letting them be a soft, gentle rain upon the soil of your heart. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Repeat them slowly. Don't rush. Let the meaning of the words resonate. May I be safe. Safe from outer harm, and safe from the inner harm of my own critical thoughts and judgments. May I feel secure and protected. May I be happy. May I know a genuine and lasting happiness that comes from within. May I touch the joy of being alive. May I be healthy, healthy in body, free from illness and pain, and healthy in mind, free from the grip of anxiety and despair. May I live with ease. May my life be free from struggle. May I meet the challenges of my life with grace, peace, and acceptance. As you repeat these phrases, don't worry if you don't feel a huge wave of emotion. The power is in the sincerity of the intention. You are planting the seeds. The feeling will come in its own time. Just continue to offer the words, gently, patiently. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Now, I invite you to gently bring to mind an image of yourself as a small child. Perhaps you can picture a photograph you have seen, or maybe it is just a felt sense of your own smallness and vulnerability. See this child clearly in your mind's eye. See them at an age when they were in need of protection, love, and acceptance. Look into the eyes of this child. See their innocence. See their unspoken longing to be seen and to be loved. This child is a part of you. This child still lives within you. Now, from your wise and compassionate adult heart, from the heart of the person you are today, begin to offer the phrases of metta directly to this precious child. Shine the warmth of your inner sun upon them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Let's expand on these wishes, speaking directly to the child's deepest needs. May you be safe. May you finally feel safe from all the things that once frightened you. May you be safe from harsh words, from angry faces, from being left alone. May you be protected by my love. May you be happy. May you know the simple joy of being a child. May you be free to play, to laugh, to be silly. May you know that you are loved not for what you do, but for who you are. May you be healthy. May your small body be strong and full of energy, and may your tender heart be healed from all its hurts. May you live with ease. May you be free from the heavy burdens that you were never meant to carry. May you release the weight of adult worries and fears. May your life be light and joyful. Continue to hold this image of your younger self in your heart, bathing them in the warm, gentle light of your loving kindness. Feel the energy flowing from your heart to theirs. This is the medicine. This is the nourishment for which they have been waiting. You are giving yourself the love you may never have received in the way you needed it. You are healing the past by bringing love to it in the present. If feelings of sadness or grief arise as you do this, that is okay. It is part of the healing. The tears are the melting of the ice around your heart. Simply allow these feelings to be there and hold them too in this vast, compassionate space. If you feel resistance or cynicism, you can even offer metta to that part of you. May the part of me that finds this difficult also be at peace. Let no part of your experience be left out of this embrace. This practice of metta is a cultivation. It is like tending a garden. It requires patience, gentleness, and persistence. You would not scream at a seed to make it grow faster. In the same way, be gentle with your own heart. Some days, the warmth will flow easily. Other days, it may feel difficult. It does not matter. The intention is what counts. Each time you sit and offer these phrases to yourself and to your inner child, you are watering the seeds of love, acceptance, and healing. You are rewiring your own brain, creating new neural pathways of self-compassion. You are changing your oldest and most important relationship, your relationship with yourself. Now, gently let go of the images and the phrases. For a final moment, just rest your awareness in your heart space. Notice any subtle shifts in the feeling tone there. Perhaps there is a little more softness, a little more warmth, a little more peace. Carry this feeling with you as you go about your day. You can return to it at any moment. A hand on the heart, a silent repetition of "May I be safe," can be a powerful anchor in a moment of stress. Metta, this gentle wishing of well-being, prepares the ground. It softens the heart and makes it receptive. It is the sincere wish for all beings, including ourselves, to be happy. But what happens when we are confronted directly with suffering, either our own or another's? When happiness seems far away, a different, though deeply related, quality of the heart is needed. It is a quality that gives us the courage not to turn away from pain, but to move towards it with an open and engaged heart. This quality is karuna, or compassion, and that is where our journey will take us next. Having warmed our hearts with the gentle sun of metta, learning to wish for our own well-being and happiness, we are now prepared for a deeper, more courageous step. Metta is the wish for the flower to bloom in the sun. But what do we do when we are faced with the reality of the wilted petals, the broken stem, the parched earth? What do we do when we are confronted directly with suffering? For this, we need a different, though intimately related, quality of the heart. We need the quality of karuna, which is translated as compassion. If Anattā is the gentle wish for happiness, karuna is the brave and unwavering wish for the suffering to cease. It is the heart's response to the cry of pain. The ancient texts describe karuna as the trembling or quivering of the heart when it witnesses suffering. It is not a thought or an idea, but a visceral, embodied response. It is the feeling that arises in your own chest when you see another being or another part of yourself in distress. It is a deep, resonant empathy that recognizes a shared vulnerability. This is what makes compassion radically different from its distant cousin, pity. Pity stands above the suffering. Pity looks down and says, "Oh, you poor thing. How unfortunate for you." Pity creates distance. It establishes a hierarchy of the helper and the helpless. And it often has a subtle undertone of, "I am glad that isn't me." Pity can make the one who is suffering feel even more isolated and powerless. Compassion, on the other hand, gets down on the ground. It meets suffering at eye level. It does not say, "I'm above this." It says, "I am here with you in this." It does not necessarily say, "I know exactly how you feel," because every being's experience is unique. Instead, it says, "I see your pain, and it touches my heart. You are not alone." Compassion is built on the profound recognition of our shared experience. It understands that the same capacity for pain, for fear, for loneliness that exists in another also exists within us. It dissolves the illusion of separation and creates a bond of deep connection. We often mistake compassion for a kind of weakness, a soft and sentimental emotion. But true karuna is a powerhouse. It is a fusion of tenderness and strength. To willingly turn your attention towards pain, whether your own or another's, requires immense courage. The automatic, conditioned response of the mind is aversion, the desperate urge to turn away, to distract oneself, to numb the feeling. To resist this powerful current and intentionally move towards the pain with an open heart is an act of incredible bravery. It requires the stability and resilience of a mountain. To be present with deep suffering without being shattered by it, to offer a steady presence without becoming overwhelmed, demands a heart that has been trained in mindfulness and fortified by wisdom. True compassion is not passive. It is the fierce, unwavering love that gives rise to wise and courageous action. In the rich iconography of Buddhism, the ultimate embodiment of this quality is the figure of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. A bodhisattva is an enlightened being who postpones their own final peace in order to stay in the world and help all beings end their suffering. Avalokiteshvara is often depicted with 1,000 hands, and in the palm of each hand is an open eye. The 1,000 eyes represent the wisdom that can see and perceive suffering in all its forms, in every corner of the universe. The 1,000 hands represent the boundless capacity for skillful and compassionate action, the ability to reach out and offer exactly what is needed: a comforting touch, a listening ear, a helping hand. This is not just a beautiful myth to be admired. Avalokiteshvara is an archetype of the potential that lies dormant within your own heart. The practice of karuna is the practice of awakening your own inner bodhisattva. It is the cultivation of your own 1,000 eyes to see your own hidden pain, and your own 1,000 hands to offer comfort and healing to the wounded parts of yourself. It is the profound practice of becoming a refuge for your own inner child. Let us now engage in this practice directly. Let us learn how to offer this courageous compassion to ourselves. Come into your posture of quiet dignity. Let your body settle, and let your awareness rest with the gentle rhythm of your breath. Feel the stability of the earth beneath you and the anchor of your own breathing. From this place of grounded presence, I invite you to gently bring to mind a memory of a time you were suffering. Let us not start with the most overwhelming trauma, but with something manageable. A time you felt disappointed, a time you felt alone, a time you felt you had failed, a time you felt rejected. Allow the memory to surface, and as it does, immediately bring your awareness into your body. Let go of the story for a moment and locate the physical trace of this emotional pain. Where does this old suffering live in your body right now? Perhaps it is a familiar ache in the center of your chest. Perhaps it is a hollow feeling deep in your belly. Perhaps it is a tightness in your throat that makes it difficult to swallow. Find the place. Be specific. This physical sensation is the first arrow. It is the direct, present moment experience of that old wound. Now, I invite you to do something you may have never done before. Take one of your hands and place it gently on that part of your body where you feel the pain. Let your hand rest there, offering its simple, human warmth. This physical touch is a powerful signal to your nervous system. It is an act of recognition and of kindness. Now, with your hand resting on this place of pain, begin to whisper these compassionate phrases in the quiet of your own heart. These are not phrases of wishing for happiness, but phrases of meeting the pain with love. I know this hurts. I know you are suffering. I am so sorry you had to feel this. I am so sorry this happened. I am here with you now. You are not alone in this pain. I will not abandon you. I will stay with you until the storm passes. May you be free from this suffering. May you be healed. As you repeat these phrases, notice their quality. This is the voice of the wise, compassionate adult you are today, speaking directly to the wounded child within. This is not pity. This is solidarity. This is a promise. It is the promise that you will no longer leave that child to face its pain alone. To deepen this, let us bring in the breath. Let your breath become an instrument of compassion. As you breathe in, imagine you are gently breathing into the sensation of pain in your body. Don't try to get rid of it. Simply acknowledge it with your in-breath, making space for it, accepting its presence. And as you breathe out, imagine you are breathing a quality of softness, of warmth, of soothing, healing energy directly into the wound. Imagine your outbreath is a gentle, golden balm, bathing the painful spot with tenderness and care. Breathing in, I acknowledge your pain. Breathing out, I offer you my peace. Breathing in, I make space for your suffering. Breathing out, I send you my love. Continue this compassionate breathing for a few minutes. This practice powerfully reverses our conditioned reflex to tense up and hold our breath around pain. Instead, we are learning to soften, to open, and to breathe through our suffering with immense kindness. When you feel ready, you can gently release the practice. Let your hand return to your lap. Come back to the simple feeling of your whole body breathing, and just notice the climate of your inner world. Perhaps there is a sense of release, of quiet. Perhaps the sharp edges of the pain have softened. You have just performed a profound act of self-love. You have met a difficult part of yourself with the courage and tenderness of a bodhisattva. You have shown your inner child that no feeling is too scary. No pain is too deep to be held in the arms of your own compassionate awareness. Metta and karuna are the two wings of the bird of love. We need metta, the wish for ourselves and others to soar in the bright sky of happiness. And we need karuna, the strength and tenderness to care for ourselves and others when our wings are broken and we are on the ground. By cultivating both, we develop a heart that is both resilient and responsive, capable of navigating the full spectrum of human experience with grace. We have now learned to sit with our own pain and offer it a healing balm. But a question naturally arises. What about the source of the pain? What about the anger and resentment we carry towards those whose actions created our wounds in the first place? To be truly free, we must also address this heavy burden. This leads us to the challenging and ultimately liberating practice of forgiveness. Having learned to meet our own pain with the courageous heart of compassion, we arrive at one of the most challenging and necessary landscapes on the path of healing. This is the landscape of forgiveness. For many of us, this word itself is heavy, fraught with misunderstanding and a sense of impossible obligation. It can feel like a demand to betray ourselves, to say that what happened was okay when it was profoundly not okay. Our pain is often entangled with a deep and justifiable anger, a cold knot of resentment, or a burning sense of injustice towards those who hurt us. We hold on to this anger because it feels protective. It feels like a shield, a way of honoring the gravity of the wound. But if we look closely, with the clear light of awareness, we may come to see that this shield is also a cage. This protective fire is also a poison that sears our own heart. To begin this exploration, we must first throw away the common, unhelpful definitions of forgiveness. Let us be absolutely clear about what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not condoning. It is not saying that the harmful action was acceptable. The harm was real. The injustice was real. Your pain is valid. Forgiveness does not erase the wrongness of the act. It does not mean you have to be friends with the person who hurt you. It does not mean you have to trust them or even allow them back into your life. In many cases, especially those involving abuse or repeated harm, maintaining firm boundaries and physical distance is the wisest and most compassionate act of self-protection. Forgiveness is not about them. It is not an act you perform for their benefit. It is an internal process you undertake for your own. Furthermore, forgiveness is not forgetting. The popular phrase, forgive and forget, has caused immense confusion and has invalidated the experience of countless people. Your memory is not your enemy. The memory of what happened can be a wise teacher, informing you how to navigate the world more safely and how to recognize unhealthy patterns. Forgetting is not the goal. The goal is to heal the wound so that the memory no longer has the power to trigger the toxic cycle of rage, bitterness, and obsessive thinking. It is about transforming the memory from a hot, radioactive stone that burns you every time you touch it into a cool, smooth stone that you can look at, learn from, and then put down, no longer burdened by its heat. The Buddha used a powerful simile to describe the nature of anger and resentment. He taught that holding on to anger with the intent of harming someone else is like grasping a burning piece of coal with the intent of throwing it at them. Who gets burned first? Who feels the searing pain in every moment they hold on? You do. Resentment is a poison you drink, hoping the other person will die. It is a fire that consumes your own peace, a corrosive acid that eats away at your own heart. It keeps you psychically tethered to the person who hurt you, allowing them to live rent-free in your mind, continuing to cause you pain long after the original event has passed. Forgiveness, in this context, is the ultimate act of self-interest and self-preservation. It is the simple, wise, and profoundly relieving act of dropping the hot coal, not because the other person deserves it, but because your hand deserves not to be burned. There is another story that powerfully illustrates this. Two monks were on a long journey. They came to a river with a strong current, where a young woman was waiting, afraid to cross. The senior monk, without a word, lifted the woman onto his shoulders, carried her across the river, and set her down on the other side. He then continued on his way. The junior monk was scandalized. Their monastic vows strictly forbade them from touching women. For hours, as they walked, the junior monk fumed, replaying the scene in his mind, building up a case against the senior monk. Finally, unable to contain himself any longer, he burst out, "Brother, how could you do that? You broke our sacred vows by touching that woman." The senior monk looked at him with gentle eyes and said, "Brother, I left that woman on the riverbank hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story perfectly captures our predicament. The harmful event is in the past. It is on the other side of the river, but we continue to carry the anger, the resentment, the story of it for hours, days, years, or even a lifetime. Forgiveness is the act of realizing you are still carrying the burden and consciously choosing to put it down on the riverbank and walk on, free. So how do we begin this difficult but liberating process? We begin, as always, with gentleness and compassion for ourselves. Let us enter a quiet practice. Settle into your body, feeling your connection to the earth. Know that this is a space of safety, and you are in control. You can stop at any time. The very first step is to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for holding on to the anger for so long. You were only trying to protect yourself. You were only honoring your pain. Forgive yourself for not knowing how to let go sooner. Forgive yourself for any part you may believe you played in the situation. Just for a moment, offer yourself this grace. Silently say to yourself, "I forgive myself for carrying this burden for so long. I was doing the best I could." Now, gently bring to mind the person who has harmed you. Visualize them in your mind's eye, but keep them at a safe distance. You are not inviting them in for a conversation. You are simply observing the image of them in your awareness. As you see them, acknowledge the pain that arises. Let yourself feel the anger, the sadness, the sense of betrayal. Don't suppress it. Just acknowledge it. I see the pain this person has caused me. This pain is real and valid. From this place of acknowledging your own pain, we can now begin the work of letting go. Remember, you are not doing this for them. You are doing this for you. Silently, from the depths of your heart, you can begin to offer these phrases. Find the ones that resonate with you. Do not force any words that feel inauthentic. I see the harm that was done, and I do not condone it. My pain is acknowledged. I see how holding on to this anger and resentment has been a heavy weight in my life. I see how this poison has clouded my heart and kept me tied to the past. For the sake of my own peace of mind, for the sake of my own freedom, I am choosing to begin the process of letting go. I will no longer allow what you did in the past to control my present and my future. I drop the hot coal. I put down the heavy burden. I release you from the prison of my anger, not because you have earned it, but because I deserve to be free. I choose peace for myself. I set myself free. Breathe with these phrases. Let them sink into your being. You may need to do this practice many times. Forgiveness is rarely a single event. It is more often a gradual process, like the slow melting of a glacier. Some days, the ice of your anger may feel solid and impenetrable. On other days, you may feel a small trickle of release. Be patient with yourself. Every single moment that you choose to turn towards freedom instead of resentment is a victory. There is one further step, a more advanced perspective that can sometimes aid this process if you feel ready for it. It is the compassionate insight that those who cause great harm are almost always living in a state of great suffering themselves. As the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. Their actions did not arise from a place of peace, wisdom, and contentment. They arose from their own ignorance, their own fear, their own unhealed wounds, their own conditioning. Seeing this does not excuse their behavior in any way, but it can help to depersonalize the injury. It shifts the story from, "This was a malicious attack on my worth," to, "This was the tragic and harmful spilling over of another person's own misery." When you can see the wounded child within the person who hurt you, it can sometimes soften the heart just enough to release the grip of hatred. Ultimately, forgiveness is the final, deep cleaning of the wound. It is the act that allows true healing to take place, allowing new, healthy tissue to grow. It is the gift of peace you give to yourself, the key that unlocks the cage and allows your own heart to fly free. Now, with the ground of your heart cleared, nourished by loving kindness, tended to with compassion, and cleansed of the poison of resentment, you are ready. You are ready to begin the joyful and creative work of building a new inner home, of actively providing for yourself all the things you may have missed. You are ready to become your own wise and loving parent. Having journeyed through the courageous practices of compassion and forgiveness, we have cleared the soil of our hearts. We have held our own pain with tenderness, and we have laid down the heavy burden of resentment. The ground is now prepared. It is fertile, receptive, and ready. The question that now arises is, what shall we build here? What will we cultivate in this newly cleansed space? The answer is a home, a safe, nurturing, and joyful inner home for the child within. This is the beautiful and life-affirming work of reparenting the self. It is the conscious and intentional practice of giving to ourselves, now, as capable adults, all the things that our younger selves may have needed but did not fully receive. To begin, let us embrace a helpful parable. Imagine that your inner self is a precious plant, and your childhood was the weather of its early seasons. Perhaps that weather was harsh there, might have been droughts of affection, storms of anger, or long periods of cold neglect. As the gardener of your own life, you cannot travel back in time to change that weather. To spend your energy wishing for a different past, a sunnier childhood, is as futile as wishing to change last year's storm into a gentle rain. The wise gardener does not waste time lamenting the past. The wise gardener assesses the plant as it is today and asks, what does this precious plant need right now to thrive? They then get to work. They enrich the soil with nutrients, representing self-care and nourishment. They provide a steady supply of water, symbolizing emotional validation. They build a small fence to protect the plant from harsh winds, which represents setting healthy boundaries. And they ensure the plant is positioned to receive the life-giving warmth of the sun, representing joy and encouragement. You are both the gardener and the plant. The power to create the conditions for your own flourishing exists entirely in the present moment. Our first task as a wise gardener is to understand the specific needs of our unique plant. We must become gentle investigators of our own history, not to assign blame, but to create a clear blueprint for our reparenting work. So I invite you to reflect, softly and without judgment. As a child, did you feel fundamentally safe? Was your home a predictable sanctuary? Or was it a place of tension and uncertainty? When you were upset, was there a calm presence to soothe you, or were you told to stop crying? When you were excited about a small achievement drawing, a good grade, was your joy met with equal joy and celebration? Were you truly seen and heard for who you were, or for who others wanted you to be? Were you allowed to make mistakes without facing harsh criticism or shame? And importantly, were you given the space and permission to simply be a child, to be silly, to be messy, and to play for the sheer joy of it? By asking these questions, we can start to identify our core unmet needs. For many, these fall into the categories of safety, emotional attunement, encouragement, and the freedom to be our authentic selves. Knowing this gives us our sacred task. We now consciously take on the roles of the ideal parents we always needed, providing these things for ourselves from within. We can think of this as cultivating two archetypal energies, the inner mother and the inner father. Let us first explore the energy of the inner mother, the nurturing principle. This is the force of unconditional love, acceptance, and soothing. A good mother attunes to her child's inner state. When her baby cries, she does not criticize it for being loud. She instinctively seeks to understand the need. Is it hunger? Is it fear? Is it pain? She then offers comfort, a gentle rocking, a soft voice, a warm embrace. We can learn to do this for ourselves. When you feel a wave of anxiety, instead of berating yourself for being weak, you can practice this inner mothering. Place a hand over your heart, feel its warmth, and whisper inwardly, "Oh, my dear one, I know you are feeling scared right now. It's okay. I am here with you. I will not leave you. Let's just breathe together for a moment." This is radical self-attunement. The inner mother also provides nourishment and care for the body. She ensures her child is fed wholesome food, gets enough sleep, and is dressed warmly. We can mother ourselves in these simple, profound ways. By choosing to prepare a nourishing meal instead of eating junk food, by allowing ourselves to go to bed early when we are tired instead of pushing through, by taking a warm bath at the end of a hard day. These are not indulgences. They are fundamental acts of love, sending a deep message to our nervous system and our inner child that they are cherished and worthy of care. Next, we cultivate the energy of the inner father, the protecting and encouraging principle. This is the force that creates a safe structure in the world and champions our growth. A good father ensures his child's environment is safe. He protects the child from harm. For us as adults, this translates into the crucial skill of setting healthy boundaries. The inner father is the part of you that has the courage to say no to a request that would drain your energy. It is the part that can limit contact with a relative who is consistently critical or negative. It is the part that can walk away from a relationship or a job that is toxic and damaging to your spirit. This is not an act of aggression. It is a fierce and loving act of protecting the sacred space of your own well-being, of telling your inner child, "I will keep you safe. I will not allow you to be harmed anymore." The inner father also provides encouragement. He sees his child's potential and cheers them on. He celebrates their successes and helps them learn from their failures without shame. We can become our own greatest cheerleader. This means consciously counteracting the voice of the harsh inner critic. It means taking a moment at the end of the day to acknowledge what you did well. It doesn't have to be a monumental achievement. "I got out of bed this morning, even though I was feeling low. Well done. I spoke my truth in that conversation, even though it was scary. I am proud of myself. I finished that small task I've been procrastinating on. Good job." By consciously celebrating our own efforts, we build a foundation of self-esteem and self-respect from the inside out, providing the validation our inner child has always craved. Finally, there is a sacred duty that both the inner mother and inner father share. It is the duty to create space for play. In our productivity-obsessed adult world, play is often dismissed as a waste of time, a childish frivolity. This is a tragic mistake. Play is not the opposite of work. It is a vital source of creativity, resilience, and joy. We must redefine play. It is any activity undertaken for its own sake, without a goal of self-improvement, profit, or praise. It is activity done purely for the delight of the experience itself. I invite you to reconnect with the spirit of play that lives within you. What did you love to do as a child, before you were told it was unproductive? Did you love to draw or paint, getting lost in colors and shapes? Did you love to dance wildly to music when no one was watching? Did you love to build things with your hands, to sing, to explore in nature, to lie on your back and watch the clouds? Your inner child is longing for this. Give yourself the gift of purposeless delight. Schedule play dates with yourself. Allow yourself to be messy, to be silly, to be unproductive. This is not a waste of time. It is the feeding of your soul. It is giving your inner child the one thing it may have wanted most, the simple freedom to be a child. Reparenting the self is the ultimate expression of taking responsibility for our own lives. It is the compassionate declaration that our past, whatever it held, does not have to define our present or our future. We are no longer helpless children, dependent on external circumstances for our well-being. We are the wise, capable, and loving gardeners of our own lives. By consciously and tenderly providing ourselves with safety, attunement, encouragement, and play, we build a beautiful and unshakable sanctuary within. Our inner child, finally feeling safe, seen, and loved, no longer has to act out in pain and fear. It can begin to relax, to heal, and to bring forth its innate gifts of joy, creativity, and spontaneity. When this secure inner home is established, a new quality of the heart begins to emerge naturally, like a spring bubbling up from the well-tended earth. It is a quiet, shimmering joy, a genuine happiness for our own well-being. And this opens the door for us to learn how to celebrate the happiness of others as well. This is the practice of mudita, or sympathetic joy. Having built a safe and loving inner home through the practice of self-reparenting, a new quality can begin to emerge from the well-tended soil of the heart. It is a feeling of quiet contentment, a warmth of well-being. The inner child, finally feeling seen, safe, and cherished, can begin to set down its heavy burdens and rediscover its natural state, which is one of joy and spontaneity. Our next practice is about learning to recognize, nurture, and intentionally cultivate this joy. We do this through the sublime practice of mudita, a Pali word that is often translated as sympathetic or appreciative joy. It is the third of the four great qualities of the heart known as the Brahma Viharas, or divine abidings, standing alongside loving kindness, metta, and compassion, karuna. If metta is the wish, may you be happy, and karuna is the cry, may you be free from suffering, then mudita is the joyful exclamation, I am so happy that you are happy. Mudita is the capacity to feel genuine, unselfish delight in the happiness, success, and good fortune of others, as if it were our own. It is a profound resonance with joy, wherever we find it. It is the opposite of envy and jealousy. To understand its nature, it's helpful to look at what it is not. The teachings speak of a far enemy of mudita, which is envy, or issa, in Pali. Envy is the state of mind that feels pain, resentment, or bitterness when seeing another's success. It is the sour, contracting feeling that comes from a place of perceived lack. But there is also a near enemy, which is more subtle and deceptive because it can masquerade as mudita. This near enemy is a kind of worldly exuberance or vicarious excitement, a boisterous happiness that is often tinged with self-interest. For example, feeling ecstatic that a friend won the lottery because you imagine they might share the winnings with you is not true mudita. It is a self-referential excitement. True mudita is pure. It is the simple, unadulterated delight in the other person's good fortune, with no thought of what it means for you. It is a celebration of joy, for joy's sake. There is a beautiful parable that illustrates the expansive, non-diminishing nature of this quality. Imagine a single candle burning alone in a dark room. Its light is precious. Now, imagine that another unlit candle is brought to it. The first candle shares its flame, and now 2 candles are burning. Is the light of the first candle diminished in any way? No, it shines just as brightly as before, but the total amount of light in the room has now doubled. If 100 more candles are brought and lit from this flame, the original flame remains undiminished, yet the room is now ablaze with light. Joy is like this flame. Sharing in another's joy does not take away from your own. In fact, it does the opposite. It increases the total amount of happiness available in the world, and it floods your own heart with the beautiful light of celebration. Envy and jealousy come from the mistaken belief that happiness is a limited resource, a zero-sum game where another's gain must be your loss. Mudita is the profound realization that joy is infinite and abundant. This practice is absolutely essential for healing the wounds of the inner child. So much of our early pain is rooted in the torment of comparison. Perhaps we were compared to a sibling, a classmate, or a neighbor. Why can't you be quiet like your sister? Why aren't you as good at sports as the boy next door? This kind of conditioning instills a deep and painful belief that love, worth, and recognition are scarce commodities that must be competed for. It trains us to see the success of others, not as something to celebrate, but as a threat, a painful reminder of our own perceived inadequacies. This comparing mind is one of the most persistent and painful afflictions we carry into adulthood, and it is the very root of envy. The practice of mudita is the direct and powerful antidote to this poison. It is a radical retraining of the mind and heart to move from a mindset of scarcity and competition to one of abundance and celebration. It heals the core wound of comparison by allowing us to finally rest in the knowledge that another's light does not extinguish our own. Before we can practice cultivating mudita, it is essential to look with honesty and compassion at why it can be so difficult. We must acknowledge the very real obstacles that stand in our way. The first, as we have seen, is the deeply ingrained scarcity mindset. Our entire consumer culture is built on feeding this belief that we are not enough, that we need something more to be happy, and that there is a limited supply of the good things in life. Secondly, we live with the constant pressure of the comparing mind, a habit which is now amplified to an extreme degree by social media. We are constantly presented with curated highlight reels of other people's lives, making it incredibly easy to feel that our own life is lacking in comparison. Another significant obstacle is low self-worth. When we are feeling down about ourselves, when we are struggling, seeing someone else's radiant happiness or effortless success can feel like salt in our own wounds. Their joy can feel like a personal indictment of our own failure, even though it has nothing to do with us. It's hard to be happy for someone else's harvest when your own fields feel barren. Finally, our sense of fairness and justice can be an obstacle. We might see someone who we feel is undeserving achieve success, and this can trigger feelings of righteous indignation. While these feelings are understandable, clinging to them only serves to fill our own minds with the poison of bitterness. Acknowledging these obstacles is not about making excuses. It is an act of compassion that allows us to approach the practice with realistic expectations and a great deal of kindness for our own struggles. Now, let us begin the active cultivation of this boundless joy. Find your comfortable, dignified posture. Let your body settle and your mind arrive in the present moment through the gateway of the breath. For this practice to be successful, it helps to begin from a place of gentle contentment. So, first, let's offer a few phrases of metta to ourselves. May I be well. May I be peaceful. May I be happy, just as I am in this moment. Establish a baseline of friendliness toward yourself. We will begin the practice of mudita where it is easiest. Bring to mind a person for whom you have great respect and affection, someone whose happiness truly brings you no conflict. It might be a beloved teacher, a spiritual figure, or a cherished mentor. Picture this person clearly in your mind. Now, imagine them experiencing a moment of pure, simple joy or success. Perhaps they have achieved a lifelong goal. Perhaps they are surrounded by loved ones, their face radiant with laughter. Perhaps they are simply sitting in peace, a gentle smile on their face. As you hold this image, allow your own heart to connect with their joy. Then, begin to offer these phrases silently. I am so happy for you. I rejoice in your good fortune. May your happiness and success continue and increase. Seeing you happy brings me joy. Your joy is my joy. Feel the words. Don't just say them mechanically. Try to genuinely feel the expansive, celebratory quality in your own heart. Let your heart resonate with their happiness, like one tuning fork vibrating in harmony with another. Now, let this image gently fade and bring to mind a dear friend, someone you love. Picture them in your mind's eye. Think of a recent success they've had, a piece of good news they shared, or simply picture them enjoying a moment of deep contentment. Feel your affection for this person, and let that affection be the bridge to celebrating their joy. Offer them the same phrases of mudita. My dear friend, I am so happy for you. I rejoice in your happiness. May your well-being grow and grow. Notice how it feels to step out of your own story for a moment and simply celebrate someone else's. It is a light and freeing experience. And now, we turn to the most radical and deeply healing part of this practice. We turn the powerful lens of mudita upon ourselves and our own journey. We have been conditioned to be harsh critics of ourselves, to focus on our flaws and our failures. We will now intentionally practice the opposite. I invite you to reflect on your own journey of healing, the very journey you are on right now. Acknowledge the courage it has taken for you to face your past, to sit with your pain, to practice this work. This is a tremendous accomplishment. Now, bring to mind one small, specific victory from the past week. Perhaps there was a moment when the inner critic arose, and you chose not to believe it. Perhaps you set a small but important boundary with someone. Perhaps you felt a difficult emotion, and you met it with compassion instead of fear. Find one such moment. As you hold this memory of your own success, allow yourself to feel genuine joy for it. Become your own proud parent. Say to yourself, with sincerity and warmth, I am so happy that I did that. I rejoice in my own strength and my own growth. I celebrate this victory, no matter how small. May this strength and happiness continue to grow within me. So often, we dismiss our own progress. This practice is about consciously taking it in, celebrating it, and letting it nourish us. It builds a powerful momentum of positive change. Now, let's bring this celebration directly to the inner child. Gently bring to mind the image of your younger self. But this time, I want you to see this child not in their moment of pain, but in a moment of emerging joy. Perhaps, because of the work you have been doing, you can imagine this child feeling just a little bit safer. You can imagine a genuine, unforced smile beginning to form on their face. You can imagine them putting down a heavy burden and feeling a moment of lightness. Perhaps you can see them starting to play, to feel a flicker of spontaneous delight. As you witness this, feel the way a loving parent's heart swells with joy when they see their child happy and free. Let your heart be filled with this pure parental mudita. Offer these words to that healing child within. My dear one, seeing you smile fills my heart with joy. Your happiness is my happiness. Your laughter is the most beautiful music. I rejoice in your growing freedom. I celebrate your healing. May your joy be boundless. May you play and laugh and shine. This is a profoundly healing practice. It transforms the inner relationship from one of a rescuer and a victim to one of two companions celebrating a shared journey. You are not just healing the child's past pain. You are actively co-creating a new, present reality of shared joy and appreciation. This cultivation of joy is a revolutionary act of defiance in a world that so often thrives on comparison and scarcity. You are choosing to inhabit a world of abundance, to see that the light of happiness is everywhere, and to know that celebrating it in others only increases it in yourself. By learning to rejoice in your own small steps, you become a powerful engine for your own healing. You create a positive feedback loop of growth and celebration. And as you establish yourself in this inner world of safety, compassion, and joy, you begin to develop a profound sense of balance. You have learned to be with happiness through metta, to be with suffering through karuna, and to celebrate joy through mudita. But to hold all of these varied experiences of life, the pleasant, the unpleasant, the light, and the dark without being thrown off course, requires one final, steadying quality of the heart. This is the quality of upekkha, or equanimity. Having cultivated the heart's capacity for loving kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy, we arrive at the fourth and final of the divine abidings, the quality that holds, balances, and perfects all the others. This is the sublime state of upekkha, or equanimity. If metta, karuna, and mudita are the beautiful, vibrant colors on an artist's palette, upekkha is the steady, unwavering hand of the artist that allows each color to be applied with wisdom and precision. It is the grounding force, the stabilizing center, the spacious peace that allows us to engage with the world with a fully open heart without losing our balance. It is the crowning virtue that brings our entire practice into a state of mature and unshakable grace. Of all the qualities of the heart, upekkha is perhaps the most misunderstood. It is often confused with its near enemy, which is indifference or apathy. This misunderstanding is the single greatest obstacle to its cultivation. Therefore, let us be very clear. Indifference is a form of aversion. It is a cold shutting down of the heart, a retreat from the world to protect oneself from pain. Indifference says, "I don't care." As a defense mechanism, its motivation is fear, and its result is isolation. The heart of the indifferent person is closed and hard. Equanimity is the exact opposite. Equanimity arises from a heart that is completely open, engaged, and fearless. It is the ability to care deeply, to love fully, and to feel intensely, all while remaining balanced and centered. It is a profound and warm spaciousness that can hold all of life's experiences without being thrown off balance. It does not say, "I don't care." It says, "I care so deeply that I will not allow my reactions to create more suffering. I will meet all of life with a steady and peaceful heart." The far enemy of upekkha is the state we are most familiar with, the restless agitation of craving and aversion, of being constantly pulled toward what we like and pushed away from what we dislike. Equanimity is the serene resting point right in the middle, free from the violent pull of these two opposing forces. It is the deep peace that comes from non-reactivity. It is the wisdom that understands that all things are impermanent and therefore does not cling to pleasure or resist pain. Imagine a master goldsmith sitting at her workbench, crafting a beautiful and intricate piece of jewelry, to etch the fine details, to set the tiny precious stones. Her hands must be incredibly steady. If her hands were shaking with excitement and greedy anticipation, she would ruin the piece. If they were trembling with frustration and anger at a small mistake, she would also ruin the piece. Her skill depends on a foundation of profound stillness and balance. In our inner work, metta, karuna, and mudita are this fine, intricate work we do upon our own hearts. But to apply them skillfully, we need the steady hand of upekkha. Without equanimity, our loving kindness can curdle into attachment and grief when the object of our love experiences pain. Our compassion can collapse into burnout or despair when faced with overwhelming suffering. Our sympathetic joy can morph into heedless excitement and a lack of grounding. Equanimity is the vital balancing factor, ensuring that our love is wise, our compassion is sustainable, and our joy is grounded. This quality is absolutely essential for navigating the long and winding road of healing. The journey of healing is not a straight line upwards. It is a spiral. There will be periods of incredible insight and lightness. There will be days when you feel free, when the past seems distant and the future feels bright. And there will be days when, for no apparent reason, the old grief returns. A familiar sadness may weigh upon your heart, or a wave of anxiety may wash over you. In these moments, the untrained mind panics. It fires the second arrow. I've failed. All my work was for nothing. I'm back at square one. I will never heal. This is the voice of a lack of equanimity. Upekkha is the wise and gentle parent who can hold these ups and downs with a spacious acceptance. On a good day, the equanimous mind feels the joy without clinging to it, without creating a story that says, I must feel this way forever. It enjoys the sunshine, knowing that the weather will eventually change. On a difficult day, the equanimous mind feels the pain without resisting it or falling into despair. It says, a storm cloud is here today. I will be present with it, knowing that it too will pass. Upekkha allows you to trust the process, to understand that the periods of difficulty are not a sign of failure, but are often a necessary part of a deeper layer of healing that is taking place. It is the profound peace of knowing that you can handle whatever arises, because your well-being is no longer dependent on feeling pleasant all the time. This balance is also the key to transforming our relationships. Upekkha allows us to love more freely and more wisely. It is the ability to wish someone well with all our heart, metta, to feel for their pain, karuna, and to celebrate their joy, mudita, all while completely respecting their autonomy and their own life path. It is letting go of the immense burden of trying to control others, to fix their problems, or to manage their happiness. Equanimity understands that every being is the owner of their own karma, the heir to their own actions. We can offer our love, our support, our wisdom, but we cannot walk the path for another person. We cannot force them to make choices that lead to their happiness. Releasing this need to control is a profound act of love, both for them and for ourselves. It frees them to be who they are, and it frees us from the anxiety and frustration of trying to manage the unmanageable. To cultivate this unshakable quality, we can turn to a powerful meditation. Find your seat of dignity and stillness. Close your eyes and connect with your breath. Now, In your mind's eye, I invite you to visualize a great, majestic mountain. See it clearly. See its proud peak reaching high into the sky, touching the clouds. See its vast, sloping sides, covered with ancient forests and strong rock. See its base, rooted deep, deep into the bedrock of the earth, solid, stable, and unmoving. Now, I invite you to bring the qualities of this mountain into your own body. Feel your own posture, embodying this same mountain-like stability. Your head is the majestic peak. Your shoulders and arms are the sloping sides. Your seat and legs are the firm, unshakable base, rooted to the earth. You are the mountain. Just sit here for a few moments, breathing with this feeling of immense stability, dignity, and presence. As you sit, firm and steady as a mountain, the weather begins to change. First, the sun shines brightly upon you. A warm, beautiful day. You feel the sun's warmth on your slopes. This represents the pleasant experiences of life. Joy, praise, success, love. As the mountain, you simply sit, allowing yourself to be warmed by the sun. You do not try to cling to the sun or worry about it leaving. You simply receive its warmth, remaining stable and present. Then, dark clouds begin to gather. The sky grows black. The wind begins to howl, and a torrential rain begins to fall. A fierce storm rages around you. This represents the difficult experiences of life: loss, grief, criticism, painful memories, fear. As the mountain, you are battered by the wind and soaked by the rain, but you are not moved. You do not become the storm. You do not resist the storm. You sit with unshakable presence, allowing the storm to rage around you, knowing that your core is undisturbed. You provide a sanctuary of stillness in the midst of the chaos. Then, the storm passes, and a thick, dense fog descends. You cannot see your own peak or the valley below. Everything is grey and uncertain. This represents the neutral, confusing times in life. Periods of doubt, of not knowing, of feeling stuck. As the mountain, you do not panic. You do not try to force the fog to lift. You simply sit with patience and presence, waiting quietly in the mist, knowing that the nature of fog, like all other weather, is to eventually dissipate. This is the practice of upekkha. It is learning to be the mountain. It is cultivating the capacity to remain grounded and centered, no matter what weather patterns of life swirl around you. The joy, the pain, the praise, the blame, the gain, the loss of it comes and goes. Your task is to remain present, open, and unshaken. This is the ultimate peace, a deep inner stillness that is not dependent on life being any particular way. It is a peace that can hold everything. With our heart now brought into beautiful harmony by these four divine qualities, and with a growing wisdom into the nature of our own minds, we are prepared to take our practice off the cushion and into the world. We can now explore how this inner transformation manifests in our daily lives, through what we say, what we do, and how we live. This is the practical application of the path, beginning with the power of our own words. Having brought our hearts into a state of profound balance with the four divine abidings, we are now ready to let this inner transformation flow outward into our lives. Our inner work on wisdom and compassion now needs a vehicle through which to express itself in the world. The Buddha provided this vehicle in the form of the final three branches of the Eightfold Path, which together constitute a guide to ethical conduct. The very first step on this path of ethical living, the most frequent and powerful action we perform every single day, is the act of speech. This is the practice of samavacha, or right speech. It is a recognition that our words are not mere sounds. They are potent forces that have the power to create harmony or discord, to build up or to tear down, to heal or to inflict deep wounds. Every word we speak is a form of karma, an action that sends ripples out into the world and simultaneously reinforces patterns within our own mind. To take responsibility for our healing is to take responsibility for our speech. The Buddha, with his characteristic clarity and pragmatism, broke down the practice of right speech into 4 simple, actionable guidelines. The first guideline is to abstain from false speech. At its most basic level, this means not telling lies, but it goes much deeper than that. It is a commitment to living in reality. It means abstaining from exaggeration that makes us seem more important, from making promises we have no intention of keeping, from speaking in half-truths that are designed to mislead. It is a call to be authentic, to let our words be a true reflection of our inner reality. When our speech is aligned with the truth, our minds become calm and clear. We no longer have to carry the heavy mental burden of remembering which story we told to which person. There is a profound peace in simply telling the truth. The second guideline is to abstain from slanderous or divisive speech. This is the practice of not using our words as a weapon to turn people against one another. This includes obvious acts like spreading malicious rumors or intentionally trying to ruin someone's reputation. But it also includes the much more common habit of gossip. When we engage in gossip, speaking ill of someone who is not present, we are planting seeds of discord. We create an atmosphere of distrust and negativity. The practice of right speech asks us to become a force for harmony. It encourages us to speak in ways that bring people together, that highlight the good in others, and that mend relationships rather than breaking them apart. It is a commitment to using our words to build community. The third guideline is to abstain from harsh or abusive speech. This is the commitment to speak with kindness. Harsh speech includes yelling, insulting, calling people names, and using a tone of contempt or ridicule. It also includes more subtle forms of verbal aggression, like biting sarcasm that is intended to wound, or a condescending tone that makes another person feel small. These words are like stones thrown at another person's heart. They cause real pain and create lasting wounds. The practice of right speech invites us to make our words a source of comfort and safety for others. It means choosing gentle words over harsh ones, an encouraging tone over a critical one, and speaking to everyone, regardless of their station, with a baseline of respect. The fourth and final guideline is to abstain from idle chatter. This is speech that is aimless, pointless, and frivolous. It is the talking that we do simply to fill silence, to avoid being with ourselves, or out of sheer habit. While light conversation has its place, a constant stream of idle chatter clutters the mind, drains our energy, and cheapens the value of our words. This guideline is an invitation to appreciate the power of noble silence and to speak with intention and purpose. It asks us to consider, before we speak, is what I am about to say true? Is it kind? Is it helpful? Is it necessary? If the answer to these questions is no, perhaps the most skillful action is to remain silent, offering instead a peaceful and attentive presence. These 4 guidelines provide a comprehensive, ethical framework for our interactions with the world, but their power is magnified 1,000 times when we turn them inward. As important as our external speech is, there is one person we speak to more than any other, from the moment we wake until the moment we fall asleep. And that person is ourselves. For many of us, if we were to speak to our friends in the same way we speak to ourselves, we would have no friends left. Our internal landscape is often a relentless battlefield of wrong speech, dominated by the harsh, critical, and abusive voice of the inner critic. This inner critic is the painful echo of our past. It is the internalized voice of parents who were overly critical, teachers who were shaming, or peers who were cruel. As children, we were dependent on these figures for our survival, and we learned a tragic, misguided strategy. We learned to criticize ourselves first, to attack ourselves before anyone else could. The child's logic was, if I can just be perfect, if I can just find all my own flaws and fix them, then maybe they will stop being angry with me. Then maybe they will finally love me. This pattern of self-attack, born from a desperate attempt to find safety, becomes a deeply ingrained habit that we carry into adulthood. It becomes the relentless inner narrator of our lives, the source of so much of our anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. There is a wise old Cherokee story that speaks directly to this inner battle. An elder is teaching his grandchild about life. He says, "A fight is going on inside me. It is a terrible fight between two wolves. One wolf is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." He continued, "The other wolf is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you, and inside every other person too." The grandchild thought about it for a minute, and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." Your internal speech is the food. Every single moment, with every single thought, you are choosing which wolf to feed. Every time you indulge in a harsh, self-critical thought, you are feeding the wolf of fear and hatred. Every time you choose a thought of self-compassion, you are feeding the wolf of love and peace. The practice of internal right speech is the conscious, intentional practice of feeding the good wolf. We can do this by systematically applying the 4 principles of right speech to our own inner dialogue. First, we practice truthful inner speech. The inner critic is a notorious liar. It deals in gross overgeneralizations and false identities. It takes a single mistake and says, "You are a failure." This is a lie. You are a human being who made a mistake. You are not the mistake itself. Truthful inner speech is about moving from false global identities to the specific, observable truth of the present moment. So, instead of "I am a failure," the truthful statement is, "I am feeling the pain of failure right now." Instead of "I am worthless," the truth is, "I am feeling a sense of worthlessness at this moment." This simple shift is revolutionary. It creates a space between you and the feeling. You are no longer the feeling. You are the awareness that is experiencing a temporary feeling. Second, we practice helpful inner speech. The inner critic loves to ask unhelpful, rhetorical questions that lead nowhere but into a downward spiral of shame. It asks, "What is wrong with me? Why am I always like this? Why can't I ever get it right?" These questions have no useful answer. They are simply instruments of self-torture. Helpful inner speech stops this pointless rumination and turns towards constructive, compassionate inquiry. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" the helpful voice asks, "Okay, that was a difficult moment. What can I learn from this? What do I need right now to feel supported? Do I need rest? Do I need to talk to a friend? What is the most compassionate thing I can do for myself right now?" This moves us from the paralysis of self-pity to the empowerment of self-care. Third, we practice kind inner speech. This is the direct application of metta and karuna to our thought stream. It is the active practice of feeding the wolf of love. When you make a mistake and the automatic voice screams, "You idiot," the practice is to consciously intervene, to stop, take a breath, and introduce a second voice, a voice of kindness. This kind voice says, "That was a mistake, and that's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. It is part of being human and part of learning." Let's be gentle here. This kindness is not about letting yourself off the hook or avoiding responsibility. It is about creating an inner environment where it is safe to learn and grow. We learn best, not through fear and shame, but through encouragement and safety. Fourth, and finally, we practice harmonious inner speech. Our inner world is often a civil war. The inner critic, representing a harsh, internalized parent, is constantly at war with the vulnerable inner child. This creates a state of deep inner conflict and fragmentation. Harmonious speech is the practice of becoming a peacemaker inside your own mind. It is the voice of the wise, compassionate adult self that can mediate this conflict. When the inner critic attacks, the wise adult can step in and say, "I hear you, and I understand you are trying to protect us from failure. Thank you for your intention, but your method is causing a great deal of pain. We are going to try a different way now, a way of kindness." Then, this wise adult can turn to the frightened inner child and say, "I hear your fear. I know you are scared of being judged, but I am here now, and I will keep you safe. You don't have to be perfect for me to love you." This kind of inner diplomacy ends the war. It fosters a sense of inner teamwork and integration, creating a state not of conflict, but of deep, resonant peace. To begin this practice, you can start by simply listening. For 5 minutes a day, sit quietly and just listen to the habitual chatter of your mind, without trying to change it. What is its tone? Is it predominantly kind or critical? Is it helpful or unhelpful? This mindful listening is the first step. Awareness must come before change. From there, you can begin to gently intervene, to consciously introduce phrases of truthful, helpful, and kind speech. You are not trying to violently suppress the inner critic. You are simply choosing to stop feeding it and to start feeding the gentle wolf of compassion instead. This is how worlds are built. The inner world you inhabit is constructed, thought by thought, word by word. By choosing your inner words with wisdom and care, you are actively building a sanctuary of peace, a loving home where your healing self can finally flourish. Having learned to purify our speech, transforming it from an instrument of harm into a vehicle for healing, we now journey one step deeper to the very source from which our words arise. Before a word is ever spoken, it exists first as a whisper in the mind, as an intention, an inclination, a thought. Our thoughts are the seeds of our speech and our actions. The mental currents we allow to flow through our minds determine the entire climate of our inner world and ultimately the quality of our life. This practice of purifying our minds at the source is known as samasankappa, which can be translated as right thought, right intention, or right resolve. It is the second step of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, and it is the profound art of becoming a conscious gardener of your own mind. Imagine that your mind is a small, fertile plot of land. If left untended, it will not remain empty. The winds of your past conditioning, the cultural obsession with fear and consumerism, and the simple, automatic habits of the human brain will blow all sorts of seeds into it. Before long, your garden will be overgrown with the weeds of anxiety, resentment, craving, and self-criticism. It will become a dense and tangled place where it is difficult for any light to get in. A passive approach to the mind inevitably leads to a chaotic inner world. Right thought is the active and joyful practice of gardening. It involves two essential skills. The first is the skill of weeding, learning to recognize the unwholesome thoughts as they sprout and gently removing them before they can take deep root and spread their thorny seeds. The second is the skill of planting, intentionally and consistently sowing the seeds of wholesome thoughts, thoughts of kindness, generosity, and clarity, and then nurturing them with our attention so that they grow strong and blossom into a beautiful sanctuary. The Buddha, with his elegant simplicity, identified three main categories of unwholesome thoughts, or weeds, that we must learn to recognize, and three corresponding categories of wholesome thoughts, or flowers, that we must learn to cultivate. The first type of weed is the thought of craving and clinging. In Pali, this is called kama sankappa. This is the thought pattern of the hungry, restless mind that is constantly saying, "I want this. I need that to be happy." It is the obsessive desire for pleasant sensory experiences, for material possessions, for status, for praise. In our healing journey, it can also manifest as a desperate clinging to specific outcomes. It is the thought that says, "I must feel peaceful right now," or "This feeling of sadness must go away immediately." This mind of craving is perpetually dissatisfied, because as soon as it gets what it wants, it either becomes bored or starts wanting something else. It is a state of constant, exhausting restlessness, the mindset of a child who believes happiness is always in the next shiny object. The corresponding flower we plant to counteract this weed is the thought of renunciation, or nekkhamma sankappa. The word renunciation can sound harsh, as if it means giving up all of life's joys. But in this context, it means something beautiful, the thought of letting go. It is the cultivation of simplicity, contentment, and non-attachment. It is the wisdom that recognizes that chasing after external things will never bring lasting peace. It is the gentle inner voice that learns to say, "I have enough. I am enough. I can be at peace right here, right now, without needing anything to be different." For the healing inner child, the thought of renunciation is profoundly liberating. It is the release from the exhausting lifelong project of seeking validation and love from the outside. It is the child finally understanding that they don't need another person's approval or another achievement to be whole. They can let go of that desperate search and find peace and worthiness within. The second type of weed is the thought of ill will, or bhayapada sankappa. These are the toxic, thorny weeds of anger, hatred, resentment, and aversion. This is the inner monologue that replays old arguments, that fantasizes about revenge, that stews in bitterness over past hurts. These thoughts of ill will are a potent poison that contaminates the entire soil of our mind, making it impossible for anything beautiful to grow. They are the thoughts that feed the wolf of hatred. They drain our energy and keep us chained to the very people and events that caused us pain. The beautiful flower we plant to counteract this weed is the thought of goodwill, or abhyapada sankappa. This is the direct application of metta, or loving kindness. At the level of thought, it is the active, intentional cultivation of thoughts that wish well for others. When you are driving and another car cuts you off, the habitual weed of an angry thought might arise. What a jerk. The practice of right thought is to notice this weed and then to intentionally plant a flower, You can consciously think, may you be safe. May you not get into an accident. May you be free from the stress that is causing you to drive so recklessly. Notice that this is not a passive hope. It is an active planting of a seed. You are not doing this for the other driver. You are doing this for yourself. You are choosing to protect your own precious garden from the poison of anger. You are choosing to water the seeds of kindness and peace within your own heart. The third type of weed is the thought of cruelty or harmfulness, known as vihisa, sankappa. These are the most vicious thorns in the garden. These are thoughts of aggression, of wanting to inflict pain, of taking delight in the suffering of others. And most relevant for our journey, this category includes the cruelty we direct at ourselves. Every harsh, punishing thought of the inner critic is a thought of harmfulness. Every time you tell yourself, you are stupid, you are worthless, you deserve to suffer, you are engaging in vihisa. You are actively causing harm to a being yourself. The healing flower we plant in its place is the thought of harmlessness, or avihisa, sankappa. This is the direct expression of karuna, or compassion, at the level of intention. It is the deep, heartfelt resolve. May I cause no harm. This thought becomes a guiding principle for our entire life. It is the gentle guardian that stands at the gate of our mind. When we are about to speak a sharp word out of anger, the thought of harmlessness arises and reminds us of our deepest intention, helping us to choose silence or a kinder word instead. When the inner critic rears its head and begins its familiar attack, the thought of harmlessness arises and says, may I not cause harm to this vulnerable part of myself. It is the heart's most sacred commitment to gentleness, a vow to protect all beings, starting with the being that lives within our own skin. So how do we practice this inner gardening? It is a gentle, two-step process. The first step is always mindfulness. We must learn to see the weeds as they sprout. This means paying attention to the texture of our thoughts throughout the day. With practice, you begin to recognize the familiar, sticky, contracting feeling of an unwholesome thought and the light, spacious, open feeling of a wholesome one. The moment of recognition, of saying to yourself, ah, there is a thought of ill will, is a moment of pure wisdom. In that moment of seeing, you are no longer possessed by the thought. You have separated from it, and it has already lost much of its power. The second step is the gentle art of weeding and planting. This is not a violent battle against your own mind. You cannot get rid of thoughts by fighting them. Fighting a thought is like trying to flatten a wave with an iron. It only creates more turbulence. The practice is one of gentle replacement. Imagine you are in a dark room. You cannot make the room light by trying to shovel out the darkness. The darkness is simply an absence of light. All you need to do is turn on a lamp. The darkness cannot coexist with the light. It simply vanishes. In the same way, an unwholesome thought of hatred cannot coexist in the mind at the very same moment as a wholesome thought of loving kindness. So, when you notice a weeder thought of resentment, you don't wrestle with it. You gently acknowledge its presence, and then you intentionally turn on the lamp. You deliberately turn your attention to a thought of goodwill. You can bring to mind someone you love, or you can repeat a phrase of metta. By shifting the energy of your attention to the wholesome thought, you are depriving the weed of the sunlight and water it needs to grow. Deprived of your attention, it naturally withers and fades. Our mind is our most precious resource. It is the field from which our entire life grows. A farmer who wants a bountiful harvest of delicious fruits and vegetables knows that he cannot be passive. He must show up every day. He must patiently walk his fields, discerning the nourishing plants from the weeds. He must gently pull the weeds before they choke out the good crops. and he must intentionally plant the seeds that he wants to grow. Our minds require this same diligent, patient, and loving cultivation. The thoughts we choose to water are the thoughts that will grow. The thoughts that grow become the habits of our mind. The habits of our mind become the shape of our character, and our character determines our destiny. Right thought is the profound practice of becoming a conscious co-creator of your own destiny, one thought at a time. With our intentions and thoughts now pointing in the direction of wisdom and compassion, we are ready to see how this inner alignment translates into our physical engagement with the world. This leads us to the next step on the path: right action. Having aligned our minds with right thought, cultivating intentions of letting go, goodwill, and harmlessness, we now arrive at the point where intention blossoms into action. A beautiful architectural blueprint provides a vision, but it does not provide shelter from the rain. To build the house, we must pick up the hammer and nails. The third step on the eightfold path is sammakammanta, or right action. This is the practice of embodying our wisdom and compassion in the physical world. It is where our inner transformation becomes a tangible reality, expressed through the way we move, the things we do, and how we engage with the world around us. It is the practice of making our entire life a demonstration of our healing. Before we explore the specifics of right action, it is essential that we understand the natural law that governs it. This is the law of karma. In the West, the word karma has often been misunderstood as a kind of cosmic justice system, a system of fate, or a divine reward and punishment meted out by an unseen judge. This is not the Buddhist understanding. The word karma in the Pali language literally means action or deed. Karma is simply the universal law of cause and effect as it applies to our intentional actions. It is as practical and impersonal as the law of gravity. The most helpful way to understand this is to return to our parable of the gardener. The law of the garden is simple. If you plant a tomato seed, you will, under the right conditions, get a tomato plant. You will not get a cucumber. If you plant an apple seed, you will get an apple tree. You will not get a rose bush. The seed determines the fruit. The law of karma is exactly the same. Our intentional actions of body, speech, and mind are the seeds we plant in the world and in our own consciousness. Actions that are rooted in the soil of greed, hatred, and delusion are unwholesome seeds. When we plant them, they will inevitably grow into the bitter fruits of suffering, conflict, and distress for both ourselves and for others. Conversely, actions that are rooted in the soil of generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom are wholesome seeds. When we plant these, they will inevitably grow into the sweet fruits of peace, harmony, and true well-being. Right action, therefore, is the very conscious and deliberate practice of planting only wholesome seeds, ensuring that the garden of our life will bear the fruit we truly wish to harvest. The classical teachings on right action focus on three fundamental areas of ethical conduct, three fields in our garden where we can practice this wholesome planting. The first is to abstain from taking life. On its most basic level, this is a commitment not to kill other human beings, but it extends much further. It is the cultivation of a deep reverence and respect for all living things. It is the intention to protect life rather than to harm it. This practice softens the heart and helps us to see ourselves not as separate from, but as deeply interconnected with, the entire web of life. The second principle is to abstain from taking what is not given. This, of course, means not stealing material possessions, but it also encompasses more subtle forms of taking. It means not taking credit for someone else's work, not taking advantage of another person's vulnerability, not taking up someone's time and energy without respect for its value. The positive expression of this principle is the practice of generosity, or dana. It is the joy of giving, of sharing our time, our energy, and our resources freely, without expectation of reward. The third principle is to abstain from sexual misconduct. This is a call to bring mindfulness, respect, and kindness into our sexual lives. It means honoring our commitments and not causing harm to others through deceit or exploitation. It means not treating other people or ourselves as mere objects for gratification, but as complex beings deserving of dignity and respect. It is about ensuring that our sexual energy is an expression of connection and care, rather than a source of suffering. These three principles provide a powerful ethical guide for our interactions with the external world. But for our journey of healing the inner child, we must learn to apply this wisdom internally. We must learn to practice right action in relation to our own being. We can reframe these principles as three profound healing actions we can take for ourselves every single day. The first healing action is the vow to protect and honor your own life. Your life, your consciousness, your body are precious. The first principle of right action, applied inwardly, is to stop harming this precious life. This begins with your physical environment. Look at the space you live in. Is it a chaotic, stressful environment? Or is it a sanctuary of peace? The simple act of cleaning your room, of creating a small, beautiful altar, or a quiet corner for meditation, is a powerful act of right action. It sends a message to your nervous system and your inner child that says, "You are worthy of a peaceful and beautiful space. I will create safety for you." This action also extends to how you care for your body. Every time you choose a nourishing meal over something that will make you feel unwell, every time you guide your body through some gentle exercise, every time you honor your fatigue and allow yourself to rest, you are performing a profound act of self-love. You are planting a seed of self-respect. You are telling your inner child, "Your well-being matters to me. I will protect this precious life." The second healing action is the vow to give to yourself and to stop stealing from yourself. We often steal from ourselves without even realizing it. We steal our own precious time and energy by losing ourselves for hours in mindless scrolling on our phones, or by procrastinating on the very things that would nourish our souls. Right action is the practice of giving yourself the gift of your own presence, of setting aside time for silence, for reflection, for being in nature. We also steal our own joy. Every time we achieve something small and immediately allow the inner critic to dismiss it or move the goalposts, we are stealing a moment of happiness from ourselves. Right action is to consciously pause and give ourselves the gift of acknowledgement, to savor a small success and let its warmth permeate our being. We are learning to be generous with our own hearts. The third healing action is the vow to honor your own being and to cultivate a relationship of integrity with yourself. This is the internal application of abstaining from misconduct. It means honoring the signals of your body and your heart. It means learning to listen to your intuitive yes and your deep, somatic no. It means not using your body or your energy in ways that feel disrespectful or degrading to your spirit, whether that's through harmful relationships, intoxicants that numb your awareness, or by consistently pushing yourself past your physical and emotional limits at work. It is about cultivating a relationship with yourself that is built on trust. Your inner child has been watching you for a long time. When it sees that you, the adult, are a person of integrity, someone who keeps promises, especially the promises you make to yourself, it finally begins to feel safe. It learns that there is a trustworthy, reliable adult at the helm. This foundation of self-trust is absolutely essential for deep and lasting healing. It is the bedrock upon which a stable and peaceful inner home is built. Right action is not about becoming a perfect, rigid person. It is about bringing mindfulness and wholesome intention into the fabric of our daily lives. The way you wash a dish, the way you close a door, the way you listen to a friend, all of these can become acts of healing when they are infused with presence and care. Every action, no matter how small, is a seed. With every conscious, kind, and wholesome action you take, you are planting a seed of peace in the garden of your own mind. You are, deed by deed, creating a new reality for yourself, a reality where your actions are a beautiful and authentic expression of your deepest wisdom and compassion. To sustain this new way of thinking, speaking, and acting, however, requires a particular kind of fuel. It requires an energy that is balanced, joyful, and wise. This leads us to the next essential step on our path, the practice of right effort. Having aligned our thoughts with kindness and our actions with healing, we now arrive at the vital question of energy. How do we power this journey? How do we sustain our commitment to healing when we feel tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed? The world often teaches us that great change requires great force, a kind of grim, white-knuckled determination. We are taught to push through, to try harder, to adopt a no pain, no gain mentality. This approach, when applied to the delicate inner work of healing, is not only ineffective, it is often counterproductive. It leads to burnout, frustration, and a sense of failure. The Buddha, with his profound understanding of the human mind, offered a wiser and more sustainable path. He called it samavayama, or right effort. This is the sixth step on the eightfold path, and it is the gentle, joyful, and intelligent application of energy that becomes the very engine of our liberation. To grasp the spirit of right effort, we must first let go of our conditioned ideas about what effort means. Right effort is not about straining, forcing, or struggling. It is not about gritting your teeth and trying to coerce your mind into a state of peace. That kind of effort is born from aversion to our present feelings, and from craving for a future, idealized state. It is a form of violence against our own experience, and it only creates more tension. Right effort, on the other hand, is skillful, balanced, and imbued with kindness. It is perhaps best understood through a beautiful story from the Buddha's life. There was a monk named Sona who was exceptionally diligent. He was so determined to attain enlightenment that he practiced walking meditation with ferocious intensity, day and night. He walked back and forth so relentlessly that the soles of his feet became cracked and bloody, staining the path where he walked. Yet, despite his heroic efforts, his mind was not finding peace. He felt only frustration and exhaustion, and he began to think of giving up, of disrobing and returning to his life as a layman. The Buddha, knowing what was in Sona's mind, came to visit him. He asked gently, "Sona, is it true that you are thinking of giving up?" Sona admitted that it was. The Buddha then said, "Sona, tell me, before you became a monk, were you not a skilled musician, an expert at playing the lute?" "Yes, Lord, that is true," Sona replied. The Buddha continued, "And tell me, Sona, when the strings of your lute were stretched too tightly, was it in tune, and could you produce a beautiful sound?" "No, Lord," said Sona. "And when the strings were too loose, was it in tune, and could you produce a beautiful sound?" "No, Lord," Sona repeated. "But when the strings were tuned just right, not too tight and not too loose. Did your lute then produce a beautiful and sublime sound? Yes, Lord, it did. The Buddha then offered the crucial teaching. So it is, Sona, with the practice of this path. If you apply too much effort, it leads to restlessness and agitation. If you apply too little effort, it leads to laziness and complacency. Sona, you must learn to tune the faculty of your effort, to find the balance that is just right. Then, your heart, like your well-tuned lute, will produce the beautiful music of peace. This is the essence of right effort. It is the art of tuning our energy. It is patient, consistent, and joyful. It understands that healing is not a race to be won, but a gradual and organic unfolding. It is the wisdom to know when to apply energy, and the equal wisdom to know when the most skillful effort is to rest, to be still, and to practice self-compassion. The Buddha laid out this practice of tuning in a beautifully systematic way, describing 4 distinct fields for our mindful gardening. 4 ways we can skillfully apply our energy. The first field of right effort is preventing the arising of unwholesome states that have not yet arisen. This is the most proactive and intelligent form of effort. It is the wisdom of guarding the gates of our senses to prevent the seeds of negativity from even entering the garden of our mind. In our modern world, this practice of sense restraint is more important than ever. It does not mean we must hide from the world in a cave. It means we become conscious consumers of our experiences. For example, you know that scrolling through certain social media feeds reliably triggers feelings of envy and inadequacy in you. The right effort of prevention is the conscious choice to unfollow those accounts or to limit your time on that platform. You know that watching a violent or agitating news program right before bed disturbs your sleep and creates anxiety. The right effort of prevention is choosing to read a calming book instead. You find yourself in a conversation that is descending into toxic gossip. The right effort of prevention is to gently change the subject or to politely excuse yourself. This is not about avoidance out of fear. It is about a wise and loving protection of your own inner peace. You are choosing not to plant thorny weeds in your own garden. The second field of right effort is abandoning unwholesome states that have already arisen. This is for when, despite our best efforts to guard the gates, a weed has already sprouted. A thought of anger has flared up. A wave of self-pity is washing over us. A familiar craving has taken hold. The unskillful approach is either to indulge the thought, letting it grow wild, or to try and violently suppress it, which often just makes it stronger. The right effort of abandoning is a middle way, a collection of gentle and skillful techniques. The first tool is simple mindfulness. By seeing the thought clearly and labeling it, anger is here. This is jealousy. We separate ourselves from it. It is no longer me, but an event happening in our awareness, and its power is immediately diminished. Another tool is replacement. As we learned in right thought, we can gently turn our attention towards an opposite, wholesome quality. When a thought of resentment arises, we can intentionally bring to mind a feeling of gratitude for something in our life. We are not fighting the weed. We are simply choosing to water a flower instead. A third tool is to investigate the feeling in the body, seeing its impermanent, changing nature. And a fourth is to reflect on the disadvantages of the unwholesome state. If I continue to feed this anger, it will steal my peace and harm my body. I choose freedom. The third field of right effort is the joyful part of the work. It is the practice of arousing or developing wholesome states that have not yet arisen. This is the conscious and creative act of planting beautiful flowers in our garden. If we simply focus on weeding, the garden may become clear, but it will also be empty. We must actively introduce the qualities we wish to see flourish. This is an act of will, an intentional turning of the mind towards the beautiful. This effort might take the form of scheduling 5 minutes each morning for a loving kindness meditation, deliberately sending wishes of goodwill to ourselves and others. It might be the effort of putting on a piece of music that you know lifts your spirit. It might be the effort of going for a walk in nature, specifically to connect with feelings of awe and wonder. It might be the effort of keeping a gratitude journal, where each evening you write down 3 things you were thankful for that day. This practice actively arouses feelings of joy and appreciation. You are not waiting for happiness to strike you like lightning. You are diligently planting its seeds, creating the very conditions for its arising. The fourth and final field of right effort is maintaining or sustaining wholesome states that have already arisen. This is the crucial practice of nurturing the sprouts. So often, when a moment of peace, clarity, or genuine happiness arises, the untrained mind barely registers it before moving on to the next problem or worry. We treat wholesome states like fleeting visitors, while we allow unwholesome states to move in and become permanent residents. This practice of sustaining reverses that habit. When a wholesome state arises, the right effort is to notice it, to savor it, and to help it last. For instance, you finish a difficult task and feel a sense of accomplishment and relief. The effort is to pause for 30 seconds, to really feel that relief in your body, to enjoy it fully, and to whisper to yourself, "Well done. This is what it feels like to be capable." By doing so, you are strengthening the neural pathways associated with that positive state, making it more likely to arise again in the future. When you have a kind and connecting conversation with a friend, the effort is to linger with the warm feeling afterwards. Instead of immediately picking up your phone, you are watering the flower you just planted, helping its roots to grow deep. When you practice mudita and feel joy for your own healing, this effort of sustaining it helps to build a powerful, positive momentum on your path. This fourfold practice, undertaken with the balanced spirit of a well-tuned lute, transforms our spiritual path from a grim duty into a creative and joyful engagement with our own mind. We become skilled gardeners, artists of our own inner landscape. We learn when to apply energy and when the wisest effort is to be still and allow nature to take its course. We learn that true strength lies not in force, but in gentle persistence. The spirit of right effort is one of hopeful, patient, and cheerful cultivation. And as we apply this steady, balanced energy, our minds naturally begin to change. When our energy is no longer wasted on fighting ourselves, on indulging negativity, or on being scattered by distraction, it begins to gather. It becomes more unified, more collected, more still. This well-tuned, diligent effort is the direct cause for the arising of a calm, clear, and powerful state of mind. This leads us to the culmination of our mental training, the 7th step of the path, the practice of right concentration. Having diligently tuned the strings of our effort, we have created a mind that is both relaxed and energized, both patient and persistent. This balanced energy, applied consistently through the practice of mindfulness, naturally leads our journey to its next great stage. When our mental energy is no longer scattered by distraction, wasted on inner conflict, or drained by negativity, it begins to gather. It collects, it unifies, and it settles into a state of profound stillness and clarity. This is the fruit of our practice, the 7th step on the 8-fold path, known as Samma Samadhi, or right concentration. It is here, in the deep, healing silence of a concentrated mind, that some of the most profound transformations can occur. To understand right concentration, let us revisit the beautiful and potent metaphor of a lake. Imagine a lake whose water is completely murky. A thick layer of mud and sediment, stirred up by winds and currents, has made the water opaque. You cannot see the bottom. You cannot see the fish swimming within it. And the surface cannot clearly reflect the sky above. This murky lake represents the ordinary, untrained mind. It is constantly stirred up by the winds of worry, the currents of desire, and the sediment of old memories and habitual thoughts. The water is so agitated that there is no clarity, no peace. Now, imagine trying to clear this water by force. Imagine taking a big stick and stirring it even more frantically, trying to push the mud to the bottom. What would happen? The water would only become muddier. This is what happens when we try to force the mind to be still, when we try to violently suppress our thoughts. This is not right concentration. It is a battle that only creates more agitation. The wisdom of the Buddha points to a much simpler, more elegant solution. The only way to make the water clear is to stop stirring it. The practice of right concentration is the art of allowing the mind to become still. When we do this, the mud, the anxious thoughts, the inner critic, the restless cravings naturally, and without any force, begins to settle to the bottom. The water becomes calm and transparent. And a lake with clear, still water has two remarkable qualities. It allows you to see deep within it, and it perfectly reflects the world around it. This is the nature of the concentrated mind. It is capable of deep insight and a clear, undistorted perception of reality. It is vital to understand what right concentration is not. It is not a trance, a hypnotic state, or a zoned-out sense of blissful blankness. On the contrary, the concentrated mind is exceptionally bright, alert, and vividly present. It is a state of heightened awareness, not a dull one. Furthermore, right concentration is not about making your mind blank or stopping all thoughts, a goal which is both impossible and undesirable. The practice is much more skillful. It is the cultivation of one-pointedness of mind. It is the ability to gently place your attention onto a single chosen object, such as the sensation of the breath at the nostrils, or a feeling of loving kindness in the heart, and to keep it there, to let it rest there, without being pulled away by the endless stream of distractions. It is a mind that has become unified, collected, and unshakably present. This state of profound inner stillness is deeply healing. In our normal, waking life, our brains are constantly running habitual programs of thought. The inner critic has its well-worn neural pathways, as does the anxious planner, the resentful rehearser, and the daydreaming escapist. These programs run on autopilot, consuming vast amounts of mental and emotional energy. When we enter a state of deep concentration, we are temporarily unhooking the energy supply to these programs. By keeping our attention firmly on the breath, the mind simply doesn't have the spare capacity to indulge in its usual negative chatter. The inner critic falls silent, not because we have killed it, but because we have stopped feeding it the energy of our attention. This provides a profound and restorative inner vacation. It is a direct, experiential taste of what it feels like to be free from the tyranny of our own habitual thinking. It is true peace. In this deep quietude, a new kind of listening becomes possible. When the surface noise of the mind dies down, we can begin to hear the subtler signals of our own being. Deep insights that were previously obscured by the mental chatter can now emerge into the light of our awareness. These are not intellectual insights, but deep, felt knowings. We might suddenly understand the root of a long-held fear, or see a painful memory from a completely new perspective of compassion. In the stillness, the wisdom of the heart finally has a chance to be heard. The practice of deepening concentration builds directly upon our practice of mindfulness of the breath. Having found your stable and comfortable posture, you once again bring your attention to your chosen object, the simple, physical sensation of the breath. But now, you make a soft but firm resolve to stay with it, to let it become your entire world for a period of time. When thoughts arise, you see them more quickly, and because your mindfulness is stronger, they have less gravitational pull. You learn to see a thought appear at the edge of your awareness, without your attention having to unstick from the breath and chase after it. You develop a wonderfully non-stick quality of mind. As you continue to rest with the breath, a beautiful shift can occur. The feeling of being a separate self who is watching the breath begins to soften and dissolve. The duality of observer and observed fades away. There is no longer a watcher and a thing being watched. There is simply the unified, uninterrupted experience of breathing. The mind and its object become one. This is a state of profound flow and ease, a state of non-dual awareness. As the mind unifies and the heavy burden of restless thinking is set down, a remarkable thing happens. A natural joy begins to bubble up from within. This is not a joy that depends on any external cause. It is not the joy of getting something you want. It is the intrinsic joy of an unburdened mind. It is the natural radiance of awareness itself, finally freed from the clouds of agitation. The ancient texts call this meditative joy piti. It can manifest in various ways as a thrilling sense of energy, a feeling of goosebumps, a sense of lightness, or waves of pleasure washing through the body. This joy is then followed by a deeper, more tranquil state of bliss and contentment, known as sukha. This arising of piti and sukha is a landmark on the healing journey. It is a form of wholesome, nourishing food for the heart. It provides a powerful antidote to the suffering we have become so accustomed to. This experience teaches our inner child a profound lesson, that happiness, peace, and bliss are our natural birthright. They are not something we need to desperately seek or earn from the outside world. They are qualities that are inherent to our own consciousness, waiting to be revealed when we allow the mind to become still. This discovery builds a deep inner confidence and reduces our desperate clinging to external sources of happiness. Thus, the practice of right concentration brings the mind to a state of sublime clarity, stability, and joy. It is the culmination of the path of mental discipline. The mind becomes like a perfectly polished mirror or a crystal clear lake, able to reflect reality exactly as it is, without the distortions of our fears, cravings, and delusions. This sharp, supple, and serene mind is now the perfect instrument for the final stage of the journey, the arising of liberating wisdom. With this powerful tool in hand, a tool we have so patiently forged and sharpened, we can now turn our steady gaze back upon our own life, our own story, our own wounds, and see them with entirely new eyes, from a place of profound peace and unshakable clarity. This is the practice of right understanding, revisited not as a theory, but as a direct and transformative insight. We have now walked the great spiral of the Eightfold Path. We began with the first step, right understanding, which provided us with a map for our journey, the Four Noble Truths. We then diligently walked the path, cultivating ethical conduct through our speech and actions, and developing a profound mental discipline through our effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Our minds, once scattered and turbulent like a muddy lake, have become still, clear, and bright. And now, the path comes full circle, leading us back to where we began, but at a much deeper level. We return to the practice of samadhita, right understanding, or right view. This time, however, it is not a map we are holding. It is the direct, luminous, and transformative seeing of the territory itself. This is the arising of wisdom, or paññā, the beautiful fruit of our entire journey. It is helpful to understand that there are different kinds of wisdom. The first kind is the wisdom we get from listening to teachings or reading books. It is conceptual, intellectual. It gives us the necessary framework, the pointing out instructions. This is the map, and it is essential. The second kind of wisdom is what we get from thinking about and reflecting on these teachings, connecting them to our own life. But the third and most profound kind of wisdom is the wisdom that arises from direct, meditative experience. This is bhavana, maya, paññā. It is not something you think. It is something you see in the very fabric of your being. It is the direct insight that blossoms in a mind that has been made calm, clear, and steady through concentration. With this refined and powerful instrument of a concentrated mind, we can now look back at the story of our life, at the very wounds that started us on this path, and see them with entirely new eyes. Where we once saw a simple, painful drama, we now see something far more vast and complex. With the clear lens of our cultivated awareness, the old story of I was the victim and they were the perpetrator begins to dissolve. It is replaced by a vision of dependent origination, a vision of a vast, interconnected web of causes and conditions. We see that the person who hurt us was not an isolated monster acting in a vacuum. They were themselves the product of a long chain of causes and conditions. We can see, with a newfound clarity, their own history, their own ignorance, their own unhealed wounds. We can see that their harmful actions were not a calculated assault on our intrinsic worth, but rather a tragic manifestation of their own suffering. As the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. Their hearts were filled with the poison of their own anger, fear, or greed, and in their confusion, they spilled that poison onto us. To see this does not in any way excuse or condone the harm that was done. The pain was real, the wound was real, but this insight depersonalizes the injury in a profoundly liberating way. It removes the venomous sting of the question, why me? It allows us to see the event not as a personal judgment on our worthiness, but as an impersonal unfolding of cause and effect, a tragic intersection of their suffering and our vulnerability. This deep seeing is what allows the final embers of resentment to cool and the flower of a true, unshakable forgiveness to bloom. This leads us to the most radical and healing reframing of all, our relationship to the wound itself. For so long, we have seen our childhood trauma as a curse, a flaw, a dark stain on our life story that has held us back. Now, with the eyes of wisdom, we can begin to see it differently. There is a beloved teaching in Buddhism that uses the metaphor of the lotus flower. The lotus is a symbol of purity, beauty, and enlightenment. Its blossoms are radiant and immaculate. But where does this exquisite flower grow? It does not grow on clean, polished marble. It grows only out of the thick, dark, smelly mud at the bottom of a pond. The mud is murky, unpleasant, and full of decay, and yet it contains all the essential nutrients that the lotus needs to rise up through the water and blossom into the light. The teaching is simple and profound. No mud, no lotus. The mud of our lives are suffering, our wounds, our failures, our griefs, the very ground from which the lotus of wisdom and compassion can grow. I invite you to gently hold this possibility in your heart. Look back at your wound, at the pain that started you on this entire journey of self-exploration and healing. Had it not been for that initial suffering, for that deep feeling that something was wrong, would you ever have sought out a deeper truth? Would you ever have committed to the difficult and rewarding work of looking within? It is possible that the wound itself, the very thing you have spent your life trying to escape, was actually a sacred wound. It was the catalyst, the irritant, the grain of sand in the oyster that has initiated the creation of a beautiful pearl. It was the mud that has nourished the growth of your own lotus flower. When we can see our history in this light, we no longer need to be at war with it. We can feel a sense of gratitude, not for the pain itself, but for the profound journey of awakening it has made possible. This new understanding brings about the final and most significant transformation of all, the transformation of our very identity. For years, the story we told ourselves was, I am a wounded person. I am a survivor of a difficult childhood. My life has been defined by my trauma. This is an identity constructed entirely from the past. It is a heavy identity that keeps us locked in a story of victimhood. But with the insight of wisdom, we see this story for what it is, just a story. It is a collection of memories, thoughts, and feelings impermanent, aggregates, arising and passing away in awareness. The new understanding, the right view, is this. I am not the story of my suffering. I am the awareness that is conscious of the story. My identity is no longer bound to the content of my experiences, but rests in the vast, open, sky-like context of consciousness itself. I am not the mud. I am not even the lotus flower. I am the boundless space in which both the mud and the lotus appear. This is the ultimate freedom. The past no longer defines you. It is a chapter in your book, a chapter you have learned from with incredible courage, a chapter you have integrated with wisdom and bathed in compassion. But you are the author, and your hands are now free to write the next chapter and the one after that, from a place of wholeness and peace. The healing of the inner child is now complete, not because the child has been fixed or erased, but because the illusion of a separate, broken child has dissolved. The energies, memories, and vulnerabilities that we once labeled as the inner child have now been fully welcomed and integrated into the vastness of our being. The pain has been composted into wisdom. The fear has been transformed into compassion. This right understanding is not a static destination we arrive at, but a new way of seeing that we inhabit in every moment. It is the seamless and beautiful integration of a clear, discerning mind and a boundless, compassionate heart. We now see ourselves, others, and the world through this lens of profound interconnectedness. And with this clear, compassionate, and integrated view as our new foundation, we can now ask the question, how then shall I live? How can I make my entire life, my work, my relationships, an authentic expression of this newfound peace and wisdom? This leads us to the practice of right livelihood, the art of living a life that is in harmony with our deepest values. With the dawn of right understanding, our entire perception of ourselves and the world has been transformed. We have seen our wounds not as a curse, but as the sacred soil for our growth. We have seen our identity not as a fixed, broken thing, but as a spacious, free, and unfolding process. With this profound wisdom as our new foundation, the path now turns from the inner world of being to the outer world of doing. How do we live from this place of newfound clarity and peace? How do we structure our days? our relationships, and our activities so that they become a seamless expression of our healing rather than a contradiction to it. This is the vital and practical practice of the fifth step of the Eightfold Path, Samma Ajiva, or right livelihood. When we hear the term livelihood, our modern minds immediately jump to our job, our career, our profession, and while that is certainly a part of it, the original meaning of Ajiva is much broader and deeper. It refers to our entire mode of living, our way of subsistence in the world. For our purposes, the most important form of subsistence we must secure is the subsistence of our own inner peace, our own healing, our own well-being. Therefore, we can understand right livelihood as the conscious art of organizing our entire life, how we spend our time, our energy, our resources, in a way that supports and sustains our journey of healing, rather than undermining it. It is the practice of building a life that is a sanctuary for our heart. The classical definition of right livelihood focuses on avoiding professions that cause harm, such as dealing in weapons, poisons, intoxicants, or the exploitation of other living beings. The guiding principle is simple and profound: non-harming. We can take this timeless principle and apply it as a wise question to every aspect of our modern lives. Does this activity cause harm to myself or to others? Does this relationship support my well-being, or does it deplete it? Does this habit lead to peace, or does it lead to agitation? By using non-harming as our compass, we can begin to craft a life that is in deep alignment with our most cherished values. Let us use the parable of building a house. Our life is the house that we are building, day by day, choice by choice. A wise builder knows that the integrity and peace of the house depends entirely on the quality of the materials used. If the house is built with toxic materials, cheap substitutes, and a faulty foundation, it will never feel like a safe and peaceful home, no matter how beautifully it is decorated on the outside. Right livelihood is the principle of being a wise builder of your own life. It is the conscious and joyful process of choosing only strong, healthy, non-toxic, and sustainable materials in the form of our habits, our relationships, our consumption, and our work to construct a life that is a true sanctuary, a home where our healed self can live with dignity, peace, and freedom. To do this, we can focus our efforts on 4 key pillars of a healing livelihood. The first pillar is the livelihood of your time and your energy. These are your most precious, non-renewable resources. The unawakened life is one where time is killed and energy is spent without thought. Right livelihood invites us to see our time as the very fabric of our life, and our energy as the sacred fuel for our journey. We learn to invest them wisely. This doesn't require a rigid, punishing schedule. It requires intention. It means consciously carving out non-negotiable time and space for your own healing. It might mean waking up just 15 minutes earlier to sit in silence, to meditate, or to write in a journal, setting a tone of peace for the day before the demands of the world rush in. It might mean using the small transitional moments of your day waiting for a kettle to boil, sitting at a red light to take 3 conscious breaths, reconnecting with your body instead of reaching for your phone. It means creating a gentle evening ritual, perhaps reading something inspiring or listening to calming music to let go of the day's stresses and prepare your mind for a restorative sleep. It is the wise management of your energy, learning through mindfulness to recognize which activities, people, and environments replenish your spirit and which ones drain it. Right livelihood is having the courage to lovingly structure your life around what nourishes you rather than what depletes you. The second pillar is the livelihood of your relationships. We do not heal in a vacuum. Our relationships are the ecosystem, the weather of our lives. Some relationships are like warm sun and gentle rain, helping us to grow and blossom. Others are like a persistent drought or a swarm of pests, draining our vitality. Right livelihood is the practice of becoming a mindful gardener of our relational world. It means consciously choosing to invest our precious time and emotional energy in those connections that are built on a foundation of mutual respect, kindness, and authenticity. It means making time for the friends who truly see us, who celebrate our joys, and who can sit with us in our sorrows without judgment. These relationships are a vital part of our healing support system. Simultaneously, the practice requires the compassionate strength to set boundaries around relationships that are consistently harmful. This is a profound act of self-respect, a declaration to your inner child that you will no longer allow it to be exposed to toxic environments. A healthy boundary might be as simple as deciding not to discuss certain topics with a family member who is always argumentative. It might be limiting the amount of time you spend with a person who consistently complains or criticizes. It might be the noble silence of choosing not to respond to a provocative email or text message, refusing to add fuel to a fire. And in some cases, the most loving act of right livelihood is the difficult but necessary choice to end a relationship that is fundamentally damaging to your well-being. This is not about punishing the other person. It is about honoring the sanctity of your own peace. The third pillar is the livelihood of your consumption. The old adage, "You are what you eat," can be expanded to, "You are what you consume." Everything we take in through our senses becomes the building blocks of our mental and emotional states. We must become conscious curators of our consumption diet. This applies first to our media consumption. Look honestly at the news you read, the social media feeds you scroll through, the podcasts you listen to, the movies you watch. Are you consuming a diet that is high in the empty calories of fear, outrage, comparison, and drama? Or are you choosing to nourish your mind with content that inspires wisdom, kindness, and peace? To practice right livelihood is to take responsibility for your informational environment, unsubscribing from and unfollowing the sources that agitate your mind, and actively seeking out those that uplift it. This mindfulness extends to our relationship with food. So often, we eat not to nourish, but to numb, to distract, or to fill an emotional void. Right livelihood invites us to eat with presence and gratitude, choosing foods that will genuinely support the health and vitality of this precious body that carries us through life. And finally, this applies to our material consumption. Our culture tells us that happiness can be bought. Right livelihood is seeing through this illusion. It is the practice of examining our impulse to acquire more things. Are we buying from a place of genuine need? Or are we trying to soothe an inner ache? The practice of simplicity, of recognizing that true contentment comes from needing less, not having more, is a direct path to peace. It frees us from financial stress and the endless treadmill of desire, liberating our resources for what truly matters. The fourth pillar is the livelihood of your contribution, which includes your work in the world. Even if your job is not explicitly spiritual, you can make it a part of your practice. The what of your job is often less important than the how. You can bring right action to your tasks by performing them with integrity and care. You can practice right speech in your emails and your conversations with colleagues. You can practice right effort by finding a sustainable pace and not succumbing to burnout. You can practice right mindfulness in a stressful meeting by staying grounded in your breath. You can be an island of calm and kindness in your workplace. For those who have the privilege of choice, right livelihood encourages a gradual alignment of your work with your deepest values, finding a way to contribute your unique gifts to the world that feels meaningful and does no harm. Ultimately, the practice of right livelihood dissolves the artificial boundary we create between our spiritual practice and our real life. Our entire life becomes the practice. Washing the dishes becomes a meditation on service and cleanliness. Driving to work becomes a practice in patience. A difficult conversation becomes a practice in compassion. By consciously choosing how we use our time, who we connect with, what we consume, and how we contribute, we build, day by day, a life that is no longer a source of stress, but a source of healing. We build a house that is a true sanctuary. In this safe and beautiful home, built with the wholesome materials of our own mindful choices, our inner child can finally cease its anxious search for safety. It can rest, it can trust, it can heal, and it can begin to share its own unique light with the world. This act of personal healing, when lived out in the world, inevitably becomes a silent, powerful gift to everyone we meet. Having walked the path of right livelihood, learning to construct a life that is a true sanctuary for our healing, we arrive at the final, beautiful, and expansive vista of our journey. For so long, our work has been deeply internal. We have turned our gaze inward, bravely facing our shadows, patiently tending to our wounds, and diligently cultivating the garden of our mind. It can be easy to imagine that this journey is a solitary and personal one, undertaken for our own benefit alone. But now, as we stand on this high peak of understanding and integration, we can see the landscape in its entirety, and we realize the profound truth. Our personal healing was never just for us. The peace we have so carefully cultivated within is destined to ripple outward, becoming a silent, powerful gift to a world in desperate need of healing. Think of the simple physics of a still pond. When our minds are agitated, filled with the turbulent currents of anxiety, resentment, and fear, every interaction we have with the world is like dropping a jagged stone into that pond. It creates chaotic, discordant waves that spread out and disturb everything they touch. A sharp word to a family member, an impatient sigh at a colleague, a surge of anger at a stranger in traffic. These are the jarring ripples that we send out into the world, adding to the collective sum of stress and suffering. But when we have done the work to allow the mud of our minds to settle, when our inner state is one of stillness and clarity, the quality of our presence fundamentally changes. Now, when we interact with the world, it is like placing a smooth, polished stone into the calm water. The ripples that spread out are gentle, harmonious, and coherent. Our newfound inner peace manifests as a greater capacity for patience, a deeper ability to listen, a natural inclination towards kindness. Our calm presence in a stressful meeting can subtly soothe the agitation in the room. Our ability to listen to a friend's distress without becoming reactive offers them a space of true refuge. We become a calming influence, a harmonizing force, often without saying or doing anything extraordinary at all. Our very being begins to emanate peace, and this peace is contagious. This outward radiation of healing has its most profound impact on the chain of suffering that is passed down through generations. Many of the wounds we have worked so hard to health, the patterns of criticism, the fear of abandonment, the belief in our own unworthiness, were not original to us. They were often toxic heirlooms passed down unconsciously from our parents, who likely received them from their parents before them. This is the nature of intergenerational trauma. It is a river of pain that flows through a family line, with each generation unwittingly pouring its suffering into the next. When you undertake this journey of healing, you are performing an act of immense courage and profound service to your entire lineage. By consciously choosing to feel your pain without passing it on, by learning to respond with compassion instead of reacting with anger, by patiently reparenting yourself and breaking the cycle of neglect, you are building a dam in that river of pain. You are making the powerful declaration, "This suffering stops with me." The hot coal of trauma that has been passed from hand to hand for generations finally comes to rest in your own, where you have learned to cool it with the waters of mindfulness and compassion. You refuse to throw it to your own children or to the young people in your life who look to you as an example. You become the one who breaks the chain. In healing yourself, you heal not only your future, but in a mysterious way, you also heal your past. You offer a resting place for the unhealed sorrows of your ancestors, finally giving their pain the compassionate witness it may never have had. There is a wise teaching from the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh that illuminates this principle beautifully. A student, distressed by the chaos and suffering in the world, once asked him, "Master, the world is on fire. What can I possibly do?" The master did not advise him to rush out and fight the fires. He said, "Come back to yourself. Take care of your own breath. Practice mindfulness until you yourself become an island of peace and stability." In a world where so many people are being swept away by the storms of fear and anger, your solid, peaceful presence will become a refuge for many, a safe place for them to land. This is not a call for passivity or for ignoring the world's problems. It is the deepest form of wise activism. It is the recognition that we cannot pour peace into the world from an empty and agitated heart. The most powerful thing we can offer a world in turmoil is our own transformed consciousness. By becoming an island of self-grounded, stable, and compassionate, we offer a tangible gift to everyone we meet. People feel safer in our presence. They feel calmer. Our non-reactivity gives them permission to be less reactive themselves. Our peace becomes their refuge. And finally, what becomes of the inner child we have spent so much time with on this journey? The goal was never to silence this child, to fix it, or to make it go away. The goal was to heal its relationship with our adult self, to bring it home into the safety of our own compassionate heart. And now that this child feels truly safe, loved, and free, its own innate, beautiful qualities can finally shine forth. The pain of the wounded child once manifested as anxiety, neediness, and fear. The wholeness of the healed child now manifests as its most precious gifts to the world. The first of these gifts is a renewed capacity for spontaneity and simple joy. It is the ability to laugh freely from the belly, to find delight in a beautiful sunset, to not take ourselves so seriously. The second gift is creativity. The healed child is not afraid to experiment, to make a mess, to get it wrong. It is connected to the wellspring of imagination that is free from the harsh judgment of the inner critic. The third gift is authentic connection. The healed child is not afraid to be vulnerable, to be real. This allows us to form relationships based not on masks and pretense, but on genuine, heart-to-heart connection. And the fourth gift is a sense of wonder. The healed child looks at the world with fresh eyes, with a boundless curiosity and a deep appreciation for the miracle of ordinary life. These qualities, joy, creativity, authenticity, and wonder, are not just for us to enjoy alone. They are the beautiful light that we now naturally radiate. They are the music that our well-tuned instrument now plays, enriching the lives of everyone who hears it. Your journey into the depths of your own heart was never a selfish endeavor. It has been a sacred undertaking with universal significance. The peace you have cultivated is not yours alone. It is a contribution to the peace of the world. The compassion you have learned to show yourself is a resource that now naturally extends to all beings. Every time you choose a kind thought over a harsh one, every time you meet a difficult moment with presence instead of reactivity, you are adding to the light of the world. Your healing is a service. Your peace is a gift. Your presence, now grounded in wisdom and blossoming with compassion, is a quiet, powerful force for the healing of all. And so, our long journey together comes to a quiet close. We began by hearing a faint echo from a forgotten room within our own hearts, the lonely cry of a child we had long left behind. We began with the courage to simply acknowledge that a wound was there. From that first step, we walked a sacred path. We learned to use the breath as a steady and reliable anchor, a safe harbor in any emotional storm. We discovered the profound, liberating truth that we are not the fleeting clouds of our thoughts and feelings, but the vast, open sky in which they are allowed to pass. We became wise gardeners of our mind, patiently learning to pull the weeds of ill will and fear, while consciously planting the beautiful flowers of kindness, compassion, and joy. We learned to sit with our own pain without firing the second arrow of judgment, and we learned to celebrate our own healing without clinging. Most importantly, we found that lost child, and instead of trying to fix or silence it, we simply offered it the safety, the acceptance, and the unconditional love it had been searching for its entire life. As we rest here now, at the end of this path, let the core of this teaching settle into your heart. True and lasting peace is not the creation of a perfect life, free from all challenges. It is not the erasure of painful memories, or the arrival at a destination where you will never feel sad or anxious again. Peace is a new relationship with yourself. It is the end of the inner war. It is the spacious, compassionate ability to hold both your light and your shadows, your joy and your sorrow, in the same loving awareness. It is the profound realization that the child within you was never broken and never needed to be fixed. It only ever needed to be loved. And you have discovered, through your own courageous practice, that the source of that limitless, healing love is, and always has been, you. This session may be ending, but your journey is truly just beginning. You have been given the map, the tools, and the understanding. Now, you have the beautiful and sacred task of living this wisdom, day by day, moment by moment. It does not require grand gestures. The healing happens in the small, ordinary moments. Whenever you feel the old echo of fear, the familiar pull of sadness, or the harsh voice of the critic, I invite you to practice this one simple, profound act. Simply pause. Place a hand gently over your heart. Feel its warmth. Take one conscious breath, a breath that says, "I am here," and whisper, inwardly, the kindest words you can find. "It's okay. I am here with you. May I be gentle with myself in this moment." This simple gesture contains the essence of this entire journey. It is a moment of mindfulness, a moment of compassion, and a moment of choosing to love yourself. Trust in the seeds you have planted. Water them every day with your gentle attention. Be patient, be kind, and walk on with the quiet confidence that you are, and have always been, your own greatest healer.